Chapter 654. After Yun Jian took the gun, the sound of a sniper rifle could be heard from a distance where most people couldn't hear. A barrage of bullets rained down on where Yun Jian was like a barrage of cannons. Fortunately, the surrounding parents had already left the scene. Even Ding Yin had to crawl with both hands to hide in the bushes next to the flower bed in a sorry state. Ding Yin's reaction speed wasn't slow. She crawled and rolled and quickly hid in the bushes at the side of the flower bed. When Ding Yin looked back after hiding herself, she happened to see Yun Jian pouncing on the ground. She shifted her body to the left and right like someone who knew martial arts in the movies, easily avoiding the bullets. Yun Jian narrowed her eyes. The murderous intent in her eyes was obvious. Ding Yin clearly saw Yun Jian roll to avoid the sniper rifle. She was so scared that she covered her head and almost lost her courage. Yun Jian was so powerful. She was so powerful. Ding Yin was scared half to death. Adam also dodged to the side. Because the target of the bullet was Yun Jian, Adam only brushed past her. There wasn't a sniper aiming at him. Therefore, Adam's movement to dodge the bullet was very small. Just as Adam was about to step forward to help Yun Jian suddenly felt that something was wrong. She yelled at Adam, "Adam, go find my brother." Today, she didn't think too much about it. She came to Xiao Yunju's school's parent-child sports day. The first event was over. The second and third events were held at the same time. The students and parents were separated. Yun Jian suddenly had a bad feeling. She could not take care of her younger brother now. The ones who had a grudge against her now were the remnants of Inferno Ring and the mysterious person that Job mentioned. Although the Inferno Ring was destroyed and Job was dead, she learned from Job that the mastermind behind the Inferno Ring wasn't Job, but a mysterious person. Yun Jian had no way of knowing who this mysterious person was, but Job's Taijin gang had not been eliminated yet. Since the Inferno Ring had captured Xiao Yunju in her past life, they must have known about her and Xiao Yunju. This was what Yun Jian was most worried about. This group of snipers clearly knew that they would not be able to kill him. Could it be that their target was Xiao Yunju? Just thinking about it made Yun Jian's heart turn cold. She would never allow Xiao Yunju to be captured by her again. Absolutely not. Yes, Adam replied. Then, he turned around and ran towards Xiao Yunju and the others. The scene was already a mess. Some parents were frightened and ran into the school building, cafeteria, and other places to wait for help. Most of the parents took their children and hid in the flower beds, not daring to make a sound. The snipers did not intend to kill the parents or children in the school, but they caused a lot of chaos. After Yun Jian dodged the barrage of bullets from the snipers, she took advantage of the time when the snipers were reloading their sniper rifles to run towards Xiao Yunju like a rocket. Seeing that there was no danger, Ding Yin crawled out of the flower beds. She was trembling, but she still hid behind the crowd and chased after Yun Jian. Ding Yin's daughter Tian Pei was in the same place as Xiao Yunju, so Ding Yin and Yun Jian ran together. Adam ran to the place where Xiao Yunju and Duanli were playing with frogs. Yun Jian was right behind him. "Miss, Yunju is over there. He was taken away by a strange uncle. Hurry up and save him." Yun Jian had just arrived when Duanli ran over. Duanli's small body was trembling, but she suppressed her fear and told Yun Jian the whole story clearly. Chapter 655. Sure enough, this group of people's target was her brother. Yun Jian suddenly felt a surge of anger. Yun Jian knew that if her brother was kidnapped by this group of people again, it would be the same as in her previous life. The scene of her brother's death in her previous life appeared in her mind once again. Yun Jian suddenly became angry. She did not wait for Duanli to finish speaking, and rushed towards the man in black, who was holding Xiao Yunju at the entrance. Ding Yin ran over, and easily found Tian Pei who was hiding in the corner. She was so scared that she did not even know who she was. She pulled Tian Pei into her arms, and hid in the corner, as she watched Yun Jian rush towards the man, who was trying to kidnap Xiao Yunju. Yun Jian's figure was faintly discernible under the afternoon sun. Her long hair flowed elegantly, giving off a kind of gentle beauty. However, this was not what people were concerned about. As Yun Jian ran, she conveniently hid the Browning pistol that Adam gave her into the pocket of her loose track pants. The The belt of her track pants was loose. Yun Jian did not even need to lower her head to hide the Browning pistol in her pocket. Then, she took out the butterfly knife that she always carried with her from her pocket. Because she was afraid that the gun would hurt Xiao Yunju, Yun Jian did not plan to use a gun at all. Yun Jian opened the butterfly knife. She bit the butterfly knife by her mouth and ran forward with both hands. This butterfly knife was newly bought by Yun Jian. It was different from the one she used to destroy the Inferno Ring. Yun Jian had already thrown away the butterfly knife that she picked out from the army. This was because the previous butterfly knife was stained with the blood of the Inferno Ring. Usually, after Yun Jian killed someone with a butterfly knife, she would change it. This was because she felt that a knife stained with other people's blood was not clean. However, the knife in Yun Jian's hand was new. Therefore, she was not afraid that it would be dirty when she bit it. Yun Jian bit the butterfly knife. She ran with both hands, and her speed was several times faster than running with the butterfly knife. Everyone who stood afar, Ding Yin Tianpei, Wang Ba's mother, Duanli, Adam who stood where they were, and Lan Su who came later, saw her sprinting like the wind. This was probably the fastest running speed Yun Jian had ever run in her life. Yun Jian continued to walk forward. Her eyes were glowing red and filled with murderous intent. Even the man who was carrying Xiao Yunju sensed it. She bit the knife in her mouth. Isn't she afraid of swallowing it? What is she trying to do? A group of people who had hidden themselves were watching Yun Jian, as if they were watching a show once they were in hiding. At this moment, a series of sniper rifle bullets could be heard. The people hiding in the surroundings immediately shut their mouths, not daring to make a sound. However, they also realized that the bullets were all aimed at Yun Jian. Yun Jian narrowed her eyes. She bit the butterfly knife, rolled forward twice, jumped up, and continued to chase after the man. The sniper rifle continued to fire. Even some of the parents who were hiding and watching the situation could see it. This group of snipers' target was Yun Jian. Yun Jian's action of rolling to avoid the bullets stunned everyone present. After all, no one dared to compete with bullets in terms of speed. However, Yun Jian dared. Not only did she dare, but she also dared to chase after someone under the sniper's fire. Hee, Yunju was taken away by the bad uncle. She deserves it. It's best if she dies. Suddenly, a girl's voice came from afar. Although Yun Jian was running, she heard it clearly. The voice came from Tianpei. Chapter 656. Tianpei's voice was loud and clear. It was the kind of voice that could be heard by most of the people present. This included Yun Jian, who was still dodging the sniper's bullets, and chasing after the man who wanted to kidnap Xiao Yunju. Yun Jian's eyes darkened when she heard Tianpei's voice. If Xiao Yunju heard Tianpei's voice, even though Xiao Yunju said that he didn't care, Yun Jian knew that he definitely cared. When that happened, she would be depressed and sad. In her previous life, when Yun Jian found Xiao Yunju, his biological parents were already dead. Xiao Yunju was an orphan at that time. To Xiao Yunju, saying that he didn't have parents was worse than saying that he was stupid. Moreover, Tianpei even cursed Xiao Yunju. She said that she wanted to kidnap Xiao Yunju's man and beat Xiao Yunju to death. In her previous life, the scene of Xiao Yunju's head being cut off surfaced in Yun Jian's mind. Yun Jian was furious and ran faster. The sniper's bullets rained down on Yun Jian. Yun Jian was attacked from behind, but she dodged left and right. In just a few seconds, she had caught up with the man from a distance of tens of meters. Oh my God! That little girl is running too fast. And she's running through bullets. I feel like I'm watching a movie. This doesn't make sense. Some of the parents who had hidden themselves well began to chatter incessantly. Of course, there were still some who were afraid, but it was much less than before. Therefore, most of the parents had already realized that these snipers were only targeting Yun Jian. At this moment, it had only been 20 seconds since Yun Jian saw the man and chased after him. I'll go help. Adam frowned and was about to go forward. Although Yun Jian was quite skilled, if Yun Jian lost a strand of hair in front of him, Adam estimated that he would appear in the Amazon forest next week. The Amazon forest was a tropical forest where poisonous insects, snakes, and scorpions coexisted. It was the largest forest in the world. There were many types of flora and fauna there. It was known as the world's flora and fauna kingdom. However, if a person was thrown there, his life would be in danger at any time. Adam only remembered that when he and Mo's son were training, they were thrown into the Amazon forest by Ce to fend for themselves. He had almost lost his life a few times before he was able to train to this level. Although Adam wouldn't lose his life there, if he really let Yunjian get hurt in front of him, he estimated that he would appear in the Amazon forest next week. Moreover, he didn't prepare any tools for him and went into battle alone. Adam dared to guarantee that their young master would definitely do this for Yunjian. No need. Lan Su suddenly reached out and stopped Adam from moving forward. She said, she can do it herself. She was the witch god of Yulong continent. How could she not be able to handle such a small matter? Just as Lan Su's voice fell, a voice rang out. Yunjian was already right in front of the man. She pounced forward. Under everyone's gaze, as she pounced forward, she extended her leg and kicked horizontally. At the same time, her mouth loosened and the butterfly knife in her mouth fell to the ground. Before the butterfly knife fell to the ground, she easily caught it with her right hand. She pounced forward again. When the man saw this, he was so scared that he quickly turned his head. However, Yunjian's explosive speed couldn't be underestimated. She was engulfed in anger. The hand holding the butterfly knife turned along with the man's head. Chapter 657. The man who was carrying the unconscious Xiao Yunju was clearly quite capable. Judging from his skills, he did not look like a second-rate killer. He could at least be considered a high-level killer. A high-level killer could kill 50 normal people. This was because a high-level killer's standard was similar to an advanced special forces soldier's. Of course, the advanced special forces soldiers here did not refer to people like Chu Ning and Chu Xiangnan, who had earned the title because of Yunjian, but those who were truly capable. However, Chu Ning and the rest would become advanced special forces soldiers with real capabilities sooner or later. Usually, an official member of the advanced special forces, who had undergone the most brutal training, could take on 50 normal people alone. It was definitely not an exaggeration. However, such an existence had been killed on the spot by Yunjian with a stab to his temple. Leaving these profound questions aside, just the fact that Yunjian had killed someone was enough to scare everyone present out of their wits. Seeing someone kill someone in their imagination was definitely not as intense and shocking as seeing it in real life. Something like this had happened right in front of them, and the killer was the sister of their child's classmate from the same school. This feeling was definitely not as intense as they had imagined. After Yunjian killed the man, she carried Xiao Yunju back from the man's shoulder before he fell to the ground. Xiao Yunju had been knocked out by the man and was unconscious at the moment. After Yunjian carried Xiao Yunju, she did not even want the butterfly knife and retreated quite a distance from where she stood. Just as Lan Su reached out to stop Adam from helping Yunjian, Lan Su and Adam had already disappeared from where they were. No one present knew what Lan Su and Adam had gone to do, and no one wanted to find out. Yunjian hid behind a flower bed where the sniper could not aim. She checked Xiao Yunju from left to right, and found that Xiao Yunju was only knocked out, and was not a hindrance. It wouldn't affect the brain either. Just as Yunjian flashed into the flower bed with Xiao Yunju, the crowd had already exploded. Ah! Kill, they're killing people. Someone was so frightened that he was trembling with fear, shouting and yelling at the same time. Then, a large group of female parents screamed in fright. For a moment, the whole place was in an uproar. After all, everyone present was a parent, and most of them were female. The male parents had already gone to work for parent-child sports events. Most of them were female parents. However, when they saw such a bloody scene, the group of female parents were so scared that they were trembling. Even their necks were trembling. Yunjian placed Xiao Yunju in the flower bed. "Miss, how is Yunju? Is he okay?" Just as Yunjian placed Xiao Yunju in the flower bed, Duanli had already rushed over from the other side. Yunjian frowned. She didn't see Lan Su and Adam, but she knew that they must have gone to deal with the sniper in the distance. So when Duanli ran over, Yun Jian didn't stop her. Chestnut, look after Xiao Zhu for me. Yun Jian gently moved Xiao Yunju's head to Duan Li's calf. Okay. Duan Li nodded heavily. Yun Jian walked out of the flower bed. She walked over to the dead man's temple and pulled out the butterfly knife in front of the group of parents who were shivering and looking at her. Then, she walked towards Ding Yin and Tian Pei. Ding Yin and Tian Pei saw the scene just now and were already squatting on the ground, trembling in fear. Both of them were indescribably terrified when they saw Yun Jian coming over. Swish! Suddenly, Yun Jian threw out the butterfly knife. Ah! Ding Yin and Tian Pei screamed at the same time. Chapter 658. Ding Yin and Tian Pei had been squatting in the flower bed, not daring to come out. The butterfly knife that Yun Jian had thrown out had hit the ground right in front of Ding Yin and Tian Pei, only a short distance away from their feet. The butterfly knife was still stained with the blood of the dead man, which had yet to coagulate. Now that the butterfly knife had been thrown by Yun Jian in front of Ding Yin and Tian Pei, it had sunk 3 inches into the ground. This scene alone was enough to send chills down the spines of onlookers. Needless to say, the parties involved, Ding Yin and Tian Pei, must be terrified right now. Mommy has blood. Tian Pei's original stubborn temper had turned pale with fright at the scene in front of her. She howled loudly, trembling all over, tears streaming down her face. If Tian Pei had the arrogance of a young lady at the beginning, then now she had lost all her dignity. She had even broken through her stubbornness, and her tears had even fallen. She was clearly terrified. Ding Yin was also scared half to death. How could she still care about her daughter Tian Pei? Ding Yin was trembling all over. She and Tian Pei huddled together, not even daring to breathe loudly, afraid that Yun Jian would pull out the butterfly knife and stab it into their temples. Just like the man who had just been killed. Yun Jian only smiled contemptuously at Ding Yin and Tian Pei. Then she strode forward, grabbed Tian Pei's collar, and pulled her out of Ding Yin's arms. What are you doing? Seeing her daughter being pulled away, Ding Yin could no longer stay still. She hurriedly tried to pull her daughter Tian Pei back. Yun Jian kicked Ding Yin away mercilessly. She grabbed Tian Pei's collar and looked at Tian Pei's tear-stained face. Yun Jian recalled the way Tian Pei had cursed Xiao Yunju just now. You just said that my brother is a fatherless child, and told him to kill my brother. Yun Jian's eyes were filled with murderous intent. At this moment, her murderous aura was so oppressive that even the adults present did not dare to say anything, let alone Tian Pei. Tian Pei was frightened by Yun Jian's words. She had no choice but to use her trump card, crying. Pa! Yun Jian grabbed Tian Pei's collar with one hand and slapped Tian Pei's face with the other. Yun Jian did not care that Tian Pei was still a child. After slapping her, she raised her voice and growled. Why are you crying? Weren't you very powerful just now? Answer me. If Tian Pei scolded her, Yun Jian would not treat her like this. But what did she say? She actually cursed Xiao Yunju to die. The word die was taboo for Yun Jian, especially when he cursed Xiao Yunju. Xiao Yunju had died once, which made Yun Jian cherish him even more. At the same time, she could not bear to see others scolding him. Tian Pei was scolded until she could only sob. The slap on her face was burning, but she did not dare to say a word. At this moment, a sharp siren was heard from outside the school. Not long after, a few police cars stopped there one after another. More than 10 policemen got out of the cars with batons in their hands. The leader of the group was a police officer from the police station near Wuning Elementary School. He heard gunshots from nearby residents, so he immediately rushed over. What happened? What happened? The police officer's surname was Wu. Officer Wu's eyelids twitched when he saw the dead man. When Ding Yin saw the police, she quickly took Tian Pei back from Yun Jian's arms. Then, she pointed at Yun Jian and shouted at Officer Wu. She killed someone. She even wanted to kill my daughter. She's crazy, take her away. Hurry up and shoot her. Yun Jian sneered. At this moment, Officer Wu walked to Yun Jian. He looked at Yun Jian and raised his voice. What happened? Yun Jian glanced at Officer Wu. She took out a document from her pocket and handed it to Officer Wu. Chapter 659. Officer Wu was a police officer from the police station near Wuxia Elementary School. Perhaps Officer Wu was one of the higher-ranking officers in his station, but his status was nothing compared to the entire Longmen City. Officer Wu was usually high and mighty in the police station as well. After all, he was one of the more powerful officers in his station. In spite of that, he dared not even fart when he met his superiors. Yunjian's Team Monarch, on the other hand, had only become famous recently. Officer Wu was in this line of work, so it was only natural that he had heard of Team Monarch's reputation. Team Monarch's reputation had only spread recently. In the beginning, Team Monarch had only completed a mission that even the advanced special forces found difficult. In their second mission, Team Monarch had even managed to retrieve the antique stolen by International God in the shortest time possible. These two missions had cemented Team Monarch's identity and promoted them to advanced special forces in the shortest time possible. When Team Monarch was still an advanced special forces candidate, they had completed 2 major missions in the shortest time possible within a few months, and were promoted to advanced special forces directly by their superiors. Advanced special forces was an honor that some people could not attain even after decades of hard work. It was rumored that the honor of Team Monarch's advanced special forces was earned by Slashing God of Team Monarch. More importantly, the internationally renowned assassin organization, Inferno Ring, which was second only to An Hun Group and Kosha Mercenaries, was annihilated by Slashing God of Team Monarch. Although it was unknown how Slashing God of Team Monarch knew An Hun Group and Kosha Mercenaries, the rumor had shocked everyone when it got out. In other words, there was no one who was not surprised. After all, Slashing God of Team Monarch was only an underage girl according to the rumor. What Officer Wu did not expect was that Slashing God of Team Monarch, who was rumored in his station, Longmen City, the entire Zhe province, country Z, and even internationally, would appear before him. Oh my God! Smack! Officer Wu looked up at Yun Jian, and the document in his hand fell to the floor. Putting aside the fact that Yun Jian was Slashing God that had already spread to the international police force and the underworld, the fact that Yun Jian was Gu Yunjian's subordinate was enough to overwhelm Officer Wu. Yun Jian smiled faintly at Officer Wu's reaction and bent down to pick up her document, patting the dust off and saying faintly, "You've dirted my document." Officer Wu's heart clenched when he heard Yun Jian's voice again. Officer Wu opened his mouth and wanted to say something, but he found that he couldn't say anything. Ding Ying couldn't hold it in anymore. She hugged Tian Pei, who had already begun to cry, and shouted at Officer Wu again, "You're the police. Team Monarch? Slashing God. Since you are the police, how can you protect her? She had killed someone. Princes are punished the same as commoners if they break the law. Even high-ranking officials can't do as they please. Why can't she be executed for killing someone?" Ding Yin had long detested Yun Jian. Moreover, Yun Jian had treated her daughter like that just now. She even had the urge to kill Yun Jian. Yun Jian turned her gaze to Ding Yin again when she heard what she said. Chapter 660. At this moment, Officer Wu wanted to strangle Ding Yin. He resisted the urge to strangle Ding Yin and nodded to Yun Jian. Can you explain what's going on? Officer Wu was at least 3 times older than Yun Jian. However, he was addressing Yun Jian as an elder. The surrounding police officers, including the parents who were hiding in the flower bed, were all dumbfounded. When Officer Wu appeared, he looked mighty and domineering, and everyone present saw it. But how long had it been? Yun Jian had only given Officer Wu a short time to show him her ID, and Officer Wu was so polite to Yun Jian? This was illogical. At this moment, not only were the policemen who came with Officer Wu stunned, but also the parents and teachers who were hiding to watch the show, but didn't dare to come out were all dumbfounded. Yun Jian pursed her lips and squinted her eyes. Her delicate face attracted everyone's attention. Yun Jian knew that if she didn't explain herself, it wouldn't matter to her. However, her brother was studying at Wuxia Elementary School, and he still needed to be a person. Yun Jian could cut off her own path, but she would never allow her brother to cut off his future because of her. The dead man is a killer. You all saw what happened just now. A sniper tried to assassinate me, and even tried to cause a riot. Yun Jian's explanation was simple. Killer? That man was a killer? All the parents, including Ding Yin and Officer Wu, felt their hearts skip a beat when they heard what Yun Jian said. That fear was innate. How can you say that he's a killer? He's just a human trafficker. Do you think you're a piece of gold? Did he kidnap your brother just to threaten you? Who do you think you are? Do you need their threats? You just want to clear your name. Ding Yin didn't let go. In fact, Ding Yin wanted to tell Yun Jian to die immediately. Can you show evidence that the dead man is a killer? Otherwise, it will be difficult for us. Officer Wu was also in a difficult position. He looked at Yun Jian and said, although Yun Jian was a member of the Advanced Special Forces, she had killed someone in public. If she did not explain herself clearly to everyone present, this matter would not end just like that. After all, no one had the right to kill in public, even if Yun Jian was an Advanced Special Forces soldier. Of course, if Yun Jian had killed an assassin, with her identity as an ASF soldier, not only would she not be arrested, but she would also be rewarded greatly. Yun Jian narrowed her eyes. She also knew that Officer Wu was in a difficult position. Yun Jian lifted her beautiful legs and walked towards the dead man. Seeing this, Officer Wu and the others also stepped forward. Ask your man to show the back of his hand, Yun Jian said to Officer Wu, pointing at the deceased. Yun Jian was now 90% sure that this man was from the Inferno Ring. Although the Inferno Ring had been eradicated, and even the remaining forces had been wiped out. However, Yun Jian did not think that there was nothing left of the Inferno Ring. Moreover, the Tai Jing gang had not been wiped out. Moreover, the Inferno Ring's method of kidnapping her brother in her previous life was the same as it was now. Officer Wu waved his hand. Immediately, a policeman stepped forward and tore open the back of the dead man's hand. Then, a golden rose was printed on the back of the man's hand. It was extremely eye-catching. This is... Officer Wu pointed at the back of the man's hand and turned to ask Yun Jian. Chapter 661. The Inferno Ring's people have a golden rose on their back. This is not something an outsider can imitate. If you don't believe me, you can check it out in the underworld. I believe you'll be able to find the results very quickly. Yun Jian crossed her arms and stood there looking at Officer Wu. It was no longer a secret that the Inferno Ring's people had a golden rose on their back. Anyone in the underworld would know about it. That was why Yun Jian dared to say it. Officer Wu was afraid of pressuring Yun Jian, so he turned to one of his subordinates and said, "Go check it out immediately. Verify if the information is accurate." There was nothing he could do. Even if Officer Wu wanted to cover up for Yun Jian was the one who killed someone in public first. This matter had to be dealt with carefully. "Sorry, I'm afraid I'll have to make you wait," Officer Wu said to his subordinate, then turned to face Yun Jian respectfully. The Inferno Ring's people actually appeared here, and it was obvious that they were here to take revenge on Yun Jian. From this, it seemed that the fact that Yun Jian led a team to destroy the Inferno Ring was true. Officer Wu felt a chill run down his spine and swallowed his saliva. The killing god who led a team to destroy the Inferno Ring was here. How could he not be frightened? What kind of existence was the Inferno Ring? It was the world of assassins. And Yun Jian led a team to destroy them. What are you waiting for? Even if this man is an assassin, so what? She killed someone. This is an ironclad fact. She's just an ordinary girl, and she can kill people. What can she do in the future? You police officers should arrest her immediately and handcuff her hands first. She's a murderer. What if she runs away? Ding Yin saw that Officer Wu was biased towards Yun Jian. She was so angry that she gritted her teeth and pointed at Yun Jian. She looked like she really wanted the police to arrest Yun Jian immediately and interrogate her. "Shut up. If you don't shut up, I'll arrest you first." Officer Wu was a police officer. As a police officer, he had his own judgment. Now that he heard Ding Yin ordering him in front of him again and again, he felt as if he had lost control of himself. She was not his superior. Moreover, she was just an ordinary parent. How could she order the police around? Officer Wu couldn't take it anymore and yelled at Ding Yin. "You!" Ding Yin was a respectable lady both at home and outside. She had never been scolded like this before, so she was so scared that she shrank back. Are you still a police officer? Aren't the people's police supposed to serve the people? Now that she's killed someone in front of us, you should arrest her. I'll take her to the police station and give her a good beating. Let's see if she'll confess. There's no need to say so much nonsense. Ding Yin continued to instruct Officer Wu, as if she was reasonable. However, no matter how many people present heard Ding Yin's words, they were all extremely displeased. You, a woman like you is incurable. Officer Wu pointed at Ding Yin and shouted bitterly. However, what he said was what many people present were thinking. Who would arrest someone to extort a confession without first making things clear? That was a criminal law that only existed in ancient times. For a moment, Officer Wu hated Ding Yin. Reporting, we have the results. Officer Wu's subordinate had already closed the walkie-talkie and walked back and shouted to Officer Wu. What's the result? Officer Wu asked. Chapter 662. To be honest, Officer Wu breathed a sigh of relief when the person spoke. If the dead man was not an assassin, it would be difficult to deal with this matter. In addition to the incitement of the parents around them, Yun Jian would really be sent to jail. After all, even if she was a special forces soldier, she would be treated the same as an ordinary person. After all, there was an old saying that a prince would be punished the same as a commoner if he broke the law. In spite of this, Yun Jian was Gu Yunjian's woman, and she was also Slashing God of Team Monarch. Now that Slashing God of Team Monarch's name was known all over the world, the members of Team Monarch were famous as well. As for the 10 teams of advanced special forces who went with Yun Jian to take out Inferno Ring, they had been recruited by major international criminal police forces, or reputable people. The province's military had been raised several notches as well. All of this was thanks to Yun Jian. Officer Wu had heard of Yun Jian's name before, which was why he was so fearful of her. In spite of it, Ding Yin did not know Yun Jian's identity. Ding Yin did not know what Inferno Ring was, nor did she know what Team Monarch was, let alone who Slashing God was. That was why Ding Yin incited her again and again. There were many parents like Ding Yin present. They did not know that Officer Wu's claim that Yun Jian was Team Monarch's Slashing God meant that she was an advanced special forces soldier. Everyone present even thought that Yun Jian was merely Xiao Yunju's elder sister, the parent of an ordinary student in Wenning Elementary School. To Ding Yin and the others, perhaps they did not know what Team Monarch and Inferno Ring represented. However, if Longmen City's Falcon Hall was mentioned, everyone present would probably know about it. Falcon Hall was the top mafia group in Longmen City. In spite of this, the people present did not know that Inferno Ring and Falcon Hall were incomparable. Perhaps in the eyes of those who did not know, Falcon Hall was more threatening than Inferno Ring. In fact, those who knew the truth knew that Falcon Hall and Inferno Ring could not be compared at all. The Inferno Ring was an international assassin organization. That was an ironclad fact. Falcon Hall, on the other hand, was merely the biggest mafia group in Longmen City. It was nothing outside of Longmen City, Zhe Province, and even Country Z. Since the matter has been investigated clearly, you can go now. Officer Wu said respectfully to Yun Jian. Advanced Special Forces soldiers had the right to be hands-off. As long as the matter was not too complicated, and she did not commit a serious crime like murder, the document in her hand was enough for her to clear her name and leave directly. This was the reason why Yun Jian had agreed to join the Advanced Special Forces with Gu Junjian. What? Leave? She just threatened my daughter and killed someone. Why should she leave? The clueless Ding Yin had no idea that Yun Jian was an Advanced Special Forces soldier. Therefore, when she heard that Officer Wu was going to let Yun Jian go, she immediately shouted. Even if the person she killed was a criminal who deserved to die, she still killed someone. She's just a normal person. She'll be jailed for at least a few days if she kills someone. Moreover, it's hard to guarantee that she won't kill innocent people. Why should she leave? Ding Yin continued to shout, even blocking Yun Jian's path to prevent Yun Jian from leaving. Why? Because she's an Advanced Special Forces soldier. She killed an unpardonable assassin. This is the duty of the advanced special forces. Tell me, why should she? Officer Wu shouted back at Ding Yin. Chapter 663. Advanced Special Forces? Part of their job? The parents who were hiding in the flower bed were all stunned when they heard that. Most of the people present had heard of the Advanced Special Forces. Even if they did not know about the Advanced Special Forces, at least there would not be anyone present who did not know what the Special Forces were. Advanced Special Forces, that's the Special Forces. Usually, only the military would have Special Forces, and every Special Forces soldier had absolute strength. Even an ordinary Special Forces soldier could be so powerful, let alone a Special Forces soldier with the word advanced in front of it. Everyone present was stunned. What? Advanced? Special Forces soldier? Ding Yin's grip on Tian Pei loosened. When she first heard that, she was so shocked that Tian Pei almost fell to the ground. Ding Yin remembered that one of her husband's friends was a Special Forces soldier. Back then, that Special Forces soldier had bragged in front of her husband. In fact, her husband was quite envious of him, and even said that he would laugh in his dreams if he could really become a Special Forces soldier. That Special Forces soldier had not only bragged in front of Ding Yin's husband, he had also bragged in front of Ding Yin. He had even mentioned the Advanced Special Forces soldier, and bragged that he knew an Advanced Special Forces soldier. It was from that person that Ding Yin learned about the Advanced Special Forces. They were a group of people who were many times more powerful than the Special Forces soldiers. Even Ding Yin's husband's friend, the Special Forces soldier, was proud that he knew an Advanced Special Forces soldier. It was obvious how powerful the identity of an Advanced Special Forces soldier was. And now, Officer Wu was saying that Yun Jian was an Advanced Special Forces soldier in front of so many people. Even if Officer Wu was lying, even if he was spouting nonsense, he would never lie in front of everyone and say that Yun Jian was an Advanced Special Forces soldier. After all, it was not easy to lie like this. That meant that Yun Jian was really an Advanced Special Forces soldier. So, can I leave now? Yun Jian narrowed her eyes and raised her brows slightly. She didn't want to reveal her identity, but things had happened so suddenly that she had killed a member of the Inferno Ring. Xiao Yunju would still study at Wuning Elementary School in the future, and if she did not reveal her identity, these parents would automatically label her as a murderer. Even if Officer Wu knew that she was not, these parents would at least warn their children to stay away from Xiao Yunju, because his sister was a murderer. Yun Jian didn't want Xiao Yunju to bear all this. She wanted Xiao Yunju to grow up happily. If Yun Jian revealed her identity as an Advanced Special Forces soldier, none of the parents present would think of Yun Jian as a murderer. This was the difference between an ordinary person killing someone who should have been killed, and an Advanced Special Forces soldier killing someone who should have been killed. If the Advanced Special Forces killed an assassin, the people present would only think that Yun Jian was amazing and was serving the people. If Yun Jian was just an ordinary person, then there was a problem. Why would an ordinary person like her kill someone? In everyone's eyes, this could only be described as abnormal. That's enough. Let's go. Officer Wu nodded quickly. Yun Jian nodded. She didn't even look at Ding Yin and her mother as she turned and walked toward Xiao Yunju. Officer Wu ignored Ding Yin as well, and quickly led his team to clean up the scene. Ding Yin stood where she was dumbfounded. "Oh, you idiot." Just as Ding Yin was still dumbfounded, Wang Ba's mother saw that the surroundings had calmed down, and guessed that the police must have eliminated the snipers. She pulled Wang Ba out and stood in front of Ding Yin. "What's wrong?" Ding Yin was already upset, so she asked Wang Ba's mother indifferently. Chapter 664. Wang Ba's mother was truly regretting it now. She regretted provoking Yun Jian. No matter how she thought about it, she would never have guessed that Yun Jian was New Cruise's director. In fact, Wang Ba's mother regretted it when she went against Yun Jian back then. After all, it was Wang Ba who snatched Xiao Yunju's candy first. Just because of such a trivial matter, New Cruise stopped selling cars to their family in the future. Wang Ba's mother's regret was not something a normal person could understand. Moreover, many imported cars and even limited edition sports cars were only available in new crews. Wang Ba's mother could forget about it. Even if other car marketing companies had imported cars, and Wang Ba's mother's family could purchase cars from other car dealerships. What about limited edition sports cars? Although Wang Ba's mother's family could not afford limited edition sports cars, at least they could go to new crews to see how limited edition sports cars looked like if they did not provoke Yun Jian. However, if they provoked Yun Jian, they would not even be able to enter new crews' entrance. Wang Ba's mother had experienced the feeling deeply, so she was helpless. That was why Wang Ba's mother spoke to Ding Yin with the tone of an experienced person. It was too late. When Wang Ba's mother came to speak to her just now, Ding Yin did not seem bothered at first. However, after hearing what Wang Ba's mother said, Ding Yin's eyes widened, and she shouted almost at the same time. What? New Cruises director? Who in Longmen City did not know about New Cruise? Who did not know about New Cruises director? It was the company that held Country Z's biggest auto show the first time it was listed, and rose to fame overnight. Now it was the most famous company in the country. Such a company was actually Yun Jian's. This. Ding Yin's mother's hands went limp from the shock, and she almost fainted. Tian Pei, who was in Ding Yin's arms, was thrown to the ground because of the latter's weak grip. Tian Pei howled in pain. Tian Pei was still a child, but the fall would hurt for a few days at least. Of course, this was all Ding Yin's fault, and had nothing to do with Yun Jian. Yun Jian had just returned to the flower bed where Xiao Yunju and Duanli were, when she saw that Xiao Yunju had already woken up while rubbing his small eyes. Duanli had been protecting the unconscious Xiao Yunju. She only started chatting with Xiao Yunju when he woke up. Seeing Yun Jian coming over, Duanli became even more excited and shouted at Yun Jian. Sister, you're here. Yunju is awake. Okay. Yun Jian and Duanli looked at each other and smiled, then walked over. Because of this incident, the school was dismissed in the afternoon. After all, they could only return to school after the police had investigated the whole story. Otherwise, if he continued to go to school, he wouldn't even be able to guarantee his life. What was the point of going to school? This meant that Xiao Yunju and the others were on vacation again. After asking Duanli, Yun Jian found out that Duanli had no one to pick her up from school this time. Even Duanli usually went to school and went home alone. Seeing that Xiao Yunju was worried about Duanli going home alone, Yun Jian planned to send Duanli home. Just as she brought Xiao Yunju and Duanli to the gate, Yun Jian saw Adam and Lan Su rushing back like a rocket. The two of them ran to Yun Jian almost at the same time. Where did you guys go? Yun Jian saw the two of them and asked. To kill the sniper. Adam and Lan Su said in unison. After that, Adam and Lan Su looked at each other and glared at each other. Yun Jian's mouth twitched. Lan Su explained. I was the one who killed that sniper just now. Nonsense, young madam. I killed the sniper with a gun. Adam did not back down. Chapter 665. Yun Jian had guessed early on that Adam and Lan Su had gone to kill the sniper. But she hadn't thought that Adam and Lan Su would fight to claim credit in front of her. Yun Jian, that sniper was indeed killed by my darts. Lan Su didn't back down at all after hearing Adam's words. A trace of annoyance appeared on her proud and cool face. Lan Su's words were directed at Yun Jian. Seeing Lan Su's serious expression, Adam suddenly smiled. Then he looked at Lan Su, then at Yun Jian, and said in a resigned tone. Fine. You killed that sniper. I'm a man, so I won't argue with a little girl like you. Adam and Emo-san followed beside Ce. Emo-san was the kind of person who would never claim credit in front of Ce, while Adam had a fiery personality, and was the kind of person who would say anything. Although Lan Su had lived for thousands of years in the Yulong continent, on Earth, she looked only 16 or 17 years old. She did fit Adam's description of her as a little girl. Adam and Emo-san were both older than Ce and were in their early 20s. Hearing Adam call her a little girl, Lan Su cast a sidelong glance at Adam. Her cold and proud face carried a trace of annoyance. Yun Jian, I don't like to walk with him. Let him go. Lan Su said directly to Yun Jian. Lan Su was from the Yulong continent. She didn't understand the ways of the world, and she didn't know how to treat people with respect. She was very straightforward with her words. Yun Jian curled her lips slightly. She was very helpless. And then she turned to look at Adam. Yun Jian didn't say anything. Hearing Lan Su's words, Adam continued to bicker with Lan Su. Hey, I'll go my way, you cross your bridge. I don't think we have any deep grudges, right? Yun Jian didn't say anything, but Adam didn't dare to leave. He was sent back by the young master to serve Yun Jian. If he dared to leave now, Adam dared to guarantee that the door of the Amazon forest would be open for him anytime. Furthermore, Shuang was the most unreliable one. Once he made a mistake, Shuang would definitely send him to the Amazon forest. Even though he had the best relationship with Shuang, the clothes that Shuang had given him had been snatched away by Ce to be used as a cloak for Yun Jian. Once Shuang heard Ce's words, he would definitely become a bad friend. Adam pursed his lips. Yun Jian smiled. Then she touched Duan Li's head and said indifferently, "You all go back first. I'll send Chestnut back before going home." After hearing Yun Jian's words, Lan Su and Adam nodded obediently. "Oh right." Yun Jian suddenly thought of something and asked. Lan Su and Adam stopped in their tracks. With one hand holding Xiao Yunju, and the other hand holding Duan Li, Yun Jian had already brought everyone to a less crowded area. Yun Jian looked up at Lan Su and Adam. Using a tone that Xiao Yunju and Duan Li couldn't hear clearly, she asked, "Have you dealt with the sniper's body?" This time Adam nodded first and said, "I've already dealt with it." "Did you find out where they came from?" This was what Yun Jian wanted to know the most. She wanted to know who sent the assassins to kill her. She, Yun Jian, was not a person to be messed with. Who dared to kill her, and even tried to kidnap Xiao Yunju? She definitely wouldn't let them go. "I've already reported it to the organization. They're still investigating," Adam continued. When Adam was speaking, Lan Su had been standing at the side. She turned her head away and didn't listen to Adam. "Are big sister and big brother Adam fighting?" Xiao Yunju also turned his head and looked at Duan Li. The big sister here was naturally Lan Su. Xiao Yunju didn't know Lan Su's name yet, so he used big sister instead. Chapter 666. Duan Li didn't know what flirting meant, but she heard from a classmate named Little Hui in her class that the current situation was very similar to what Little Hui had said. So Duan Li said it out loud. Oh, Xiao Yunju seemed to understand immediately. He pretended to be a little adult and nodded. He pretended to understand and replied to Duan Li. Then big sister and big brother Adam are flirting. The big sister he was referring to was Lan Su. To Xiao Yunju, as long as someone treated him well and was older than him, even if he didn't know their name, he would call them big sister. I think that should be the case. Duan Li still didn't know that she had misled Xiao Yunju. She nodded and then grinned. Duan Li's little face had a slight smile. Just looking at it made people want to pinch her pink little face. No matter how soft Xiao Yunju and Duan Li's conversation was, Yun Jian still heard it. Lan Su and Adam had good hearing, so naturally, they heard everything clearly. After hearing Xiao Yunju and Duan Li's conversation, Lan Su and Adam's hearts immediately thumped. The two suddenly turned their heads. Neither of them wanted to pay attention to the other. They also stopped bickering, as if they were afraid that Xiao Yunju and Duan Li would misunderstand again. However, Lan Su wouldn't yell at Xiao Yunju or Duan Li in front of Yun Jian. With Ce around, Adam didn't dare to do it either. After Xiao Yunju and Duan Li said that, Yun Jian felt awkward for Lan Su and Adam. She pursed her lips again, then said to Lan Su and Adam, "You guys go back first." She was waiting for this sentence. Lan Su and Adam replied at the same time. "Aha." Right after they finished speaking, Lan Su glared at Adam fiercely, then turned around and left quickly. Adam didn't move either. The two of them quickly disappeared from Yun Jian's sight. "All right, Chestnut, where do you live? Big sister will take you home now," Yun Jian said as she reached out to rub Duan Li's head again. At the mention of home, Duan Li's little body trembled slightly. Yun Jian noticed Duan Li's reaction. Yun Jian frowned slightly but didn't ask further. "Miss, can you go and pick up my little sister from school first?" Her name is Duanya, and she's a very obedient child. She won't make a fuss. Duanli asked Yunjian politely. Where does your sister go to school? Yunjian did not expect Duanli to have a younger sister. She was slightly stunned, but her expression did not change. She attends Lu Baobao Kindergarten on Sanzi Street. Little sister, I'll take you there. Duanli said, holding Yunjian's hand and leading the way habitually. With Duanli leading the way, the three of them soon arrived at Lu Baobao Kindergarten on Sanzi Street. After picking up Duanli's little sister, Duanya, Yunjian took Duanli and Duanya home. On the way, Xiao Yunju even plucked up the courage to ask Duanli, Chestnut, do you pick up your little sister from school every day? Duanli smiled brightly. Yes, my little sister is very obedient. Duanli's calm words touched people's hearts. She was only an 8-year-old child herself, but she had to pick up her little sister from school every day. Yunjian suddenly felt a little pity for Duanli. Duanli was very steady in doing things. She couldn't not be steady and couldn't be a child, because she had a little sister. She had to mature. By the time she took Duanli and Duanya back to Duanli's house, the group had already walked for more than 10 minutes. More than 10 minutes later, the group arrived at an apartment that was filled with garbage everywhere, as if no one had cleaned it. There were very few people living in this apartment, and it looked like no one usually cleaned it. Duanli took them to the 3rd floor and opened her door. Chapter 667. Yunjian's eyelids twitched. The first thing she saw was beer bottles all over the floor. The strong smell of beer, coupled with the rotting smell coming from inside the house, mixed together to create a strong stench. There were very few things in the house. There was only one bedroom and one living room. There was only a small table in the living room that looked like it would break at any time. Other than that, there was a low bed by the window in the living room. The blanket on the bed was very thin. Especially in winter like this, when people were lying on the bed, the cold wind would blow in through the cracks in the window at night. Other than 4 to 5 bowls, chopsticks, and an old stove, there was nothing else. This was Duanli's house. Yunjian could tell from Duanli's clothes that she was not a girl from a rich family. Yunjian would never measure a person's worth with money. However, Yunjian did not expect Duanli's family to be so poor. In fact, Duanli was a poor student. She was studying at Wenning Elementary School, with the help of the state's financial aid for poor students. Duanli's sister, Duanya, was also in a similar situation. Without the financial aid from the state, Duanli's family would not even be able to enter the school. Miss Yunju, my dad isn't home. Come in. I'll get you a glass of water. Duanli pulled her 6-year-old sister to the low bed by the window in the living room and let her sit on it. Then, she said to Yunjian and Xiao Yunju. Duanli then went to the kitchen and poured a glass of water for Yunjian and Xiao Yunju. Yunjian and Xiao Yunju took the water. After Duanli handed Yunjian and Xiao Yunju the water, she sensibly walked over to pick up the beer bottles on the floor and put them on the stairs in the corridor. She planned to throw them down the stairs together with the trash in the future. Xiao Yunju did not mind the environment here. He even sat on the only bench in the house and chatted with Duanli. Duanli's younger sister, Duanya, didn't say a word from beginning to end. Yunjian didn't mind the environment here. She was also invited by Duanli to sit on Duanli and Duanya's small bed. Needless to say, it was time for Yunjian to figure it out. The house had 1 bedroom and 1 living room. There wasn't even a toilet. If they wanted to go to the toilet, they had to go to the public toilet downstairs. Since Duanli and Duanya were sleeping on this shabby bed by the window in the living room, that bedroom must be their father's bedroom. From this, it could be inferred that Duanli and Duanya's father did not even have the most basic fatherly love for his 2 children, let alone spoiling them. Yunjian suddenly felt sorry for Duanli. Miss, my dad won't be coming home today. Why don't you stay for dinner? I'm a great cook. Duanli invited Yunjian sincerely. Yunjian hesitated for a moment, but finally nodded. Yunjian noticed that every time Duanli mentioned her father, she would be a little scared. And from what Duanli said just now, if her father came home today, Duanli wouldn't dare to ask her and Xiaozhu to stay for dinner. Looking at Duanli's expression of wanting to show off, Yunjian finally nodded and smiled at Duanli. Then, Duanli ran to the stove and began to cook as if she was an expert. After a while, a pot of food that was quite sumptuous for Duanli and her sister was out of the oven. It was a bowl of porridge with only a small handful of rice. There were also a few vegetables floating on top of the porridge. The world was so unfair. The rich drove luxury cars, while the poor couldn't even afford to have enough food and clothing. To Duanli, it was already a sumptuous meal to have vegetables mixed in the food. Chapter 668. There were 4 or 5 bowls and chopsticks in Duanli's house. She took 3 bowls and filled them with porridge from the pot. Then, she took a pair of chopsticks and filled the bowls for Yunjian and Xiao Yunju. After that, she took the bowls back and forth and passed them to Yunjian and Xiao Yunju. Then, Duanli poured a bowl for her younger sister. Duanya didn't make a sound. She was a little afraid of Yunjian and the others. Because of her natural fear of strangers, she didn't say a word until the end. Duanli passed the bowl to her, and Duanya picked up the bowl and chopsticks. Her small hands picked up the chopsticks rather clumsily. She stirred the porridge furiously and wolfed it down. Yunjian felt a little sad seeing this, but under Duanli's expectant gaze, Yunjian still picked up the bowl and swallowed all the porridge in it. "It's delicious." Xiao Yunju gave Duanli a thumbs up and smiled at her after he finished eating. Xiao Yunju didn't think that the living conditions here were too bad for him to stay, and he wouldn't use all sorts of excuses to refuse to stay for dinner because of the poor living conditions. In fact, when Yunjian found Xiao Yunju in her previous life, Xiao Yunju was in the orphanage at that time. Although the orphanage was maintained by a charity organization, it was useless if there wasn't enough money to donate. This group of orphan children could only sleep in the worst places and barely eat their fill. Xiao Yunju had gone through such a hard life, and he could understand that. Therefore, he wouldn't despise Duanli's family. Xiao Yunju's praise made Duanli smile happily. She looked at Xiao Yunju and said to Xiao Yunju, "Eat more then, I'll get more for you when you finish." "What about you, Chestnut, you haven't eaten yet?" Yunju asked when he saw that Duanli had yet to pick up her bowl after he was done with the porridge. "I'm fine. I'm not hungry. You should eat more." Duanli shook her head and smiled at Xiao Yunju. Her family could only cook so much rice a day. If she cooked too much and her father found out, he would beat her and her sister again and say that they were greedy. What's more, she had added the only side dish they had today, vegetables. However, she didn't add much. Duanli knew that if their father came back and saw that there were fewer vegetables, he would definitely beat them again. "No, if you don't eat, then I won't eat either." Xiao Yunju's attitude was very firm. Duanli was suddenly touched. She picked up Xiao Yunju's bowl and ran to get him a bowl of porridge. Then as she walked, she said, "Okay, then you can have half and I'll have half." After saying that, Duanli filled Xiao Yunju's bowl with half a bowl of rice and poured another half for herself. Duanli finally picked up the bowl to eat the porridge. Yunjian also smiled. Duanli had only taken 2 mouthfuls of porridge when she heard footsteps coming from downstairs. Duanli's heart skipped a beat. Yunjian frowned. Just then, a rather handsome man in his 30s walked in through the open door. Behind this man was a rich woman in her 40s or 50s, who was decked out in gold and silver. "Dad." Duanli didn't expect her father to come back. She was so scared that the bowl in her hand slipped and fell to the ground, and the sound of the bowl breaking could be heard. The man in the lead was quite handsome, and he looked 50% similar to Duanli and Duanya. When she saw the man, Duanya, who was sitting on the bed, was so scared that she curled up into a ball. Duanli's father was called Duanshi. Duanshi looked decent, and it wasn't hard to tell that he was a rather handsome man when he was young. However, at the moment, he looked a little dispirited, especially when he saw Duanli and Duanya. His brows were tightly knitted together. When he saw Yunjian and Xiao Yunju, Duanshi didn't even ask anything and yelled at Duanli, "Duanli, didn't I tell you that you're not allowed to bring outsiders to our house? And how dare you break our bowl? Do you want to die?" Chapter 669. From Duan Shi's actions, it was obvious that hitting Duan Li was nothing out of the ordinary for him. Duan Li asked Yun Jian and Xiao Yunju to stay for dinner. She did not expect her father to come home that night, because his father would only come home late at night with the smell of beer all over his body. Therefore, when she saw Duan Shi, she was completely dumbfounded. "Go to hell!" Duan Shi's ferocious and venomous voice rang out, carrying with it an unacceptable sense of unreasonableness. At the same time, Duan Shi's broom was right above Duan Li's forehead. "Don't hit little chestnut. Get lost." Xiao Yunju immediately rushed out and extended his small arms to block Duan Shi's blow. Duan Shi would even hit his own daughter, let alone someone who was not related to him by blood. He waved the broom and viciously swung it at Xiao Yunju's head. If he was not careful, this strike could even paralyze Xiao Yunju. After all, a child's body was very fragile. The rich woman who was in her 40s or 50s who stood behind Duan Shi was even more excited when she saw the scene. Shaking her thick legs, she watched as Duan Shi swung the broom at Yunju and Duan Li like she was watching a show. Just as the rich woman saw Duan Shi raise the broom above Xiao Yunju's head and was about to hit Xiao Yunju's head heavily, a figure blocked in front of Xiao Yunju, like a flash of lightning. Then they saw Yun Jian reach out. She gently reached out and caught the broom that Duan Shi was swinging at her. Swoosh! Everyone present could only hear the soft sound of the broom being swung. Other than that, there was no other sound. Suddenly, Yun Jian caught the broom. Duan Shi frowned and looked at Yun Jian. His originally handsome face suddenly scrunched up. He looked at Yun Jian ferociously and shouted, "Who are you? Why are you at my house? Why are you meddling in my family's business? Get lost, get lost. I'm hitting my own daughter. What does it have to do with you?" Duan Shi's words were overbearing and self-righteous. Yun Jian frowned. She looked at Duan Shi and stood in front of Duan Li, who was trembling in fear, and Xiao Yunju, who had stepped forward to save Duan Li. Yun Jian's aura carried the arrogance of a ruler. She looked at Duan Shi, and naturally, she had already guessed the situation of Duan Li's family. "It doesn't matter who I am, but I have to get involved in today's matter." Yun Jian's voice rang out, causing Duan Shi and the rich woman standing behind her to shiver. Of course, it was just a shiver. Her age was not enough to threaten Duan Shi and the rich woman. "Honey, isn't this your home? What does hitting your own daughter have to do with her? And who is she? If they come to your house, you can sue them for trespassing." The rich woman walked over and leaned against Duan Shi. She used her elephant legs and fat, but to stick to Duan Shi, she shouted intimately. Yun Jian knew what was going on right away. This Duan Shi was good-looking, but his family was so poor. If she guessed correctly, this Duan Shi was probably kept by this rich woman in front of her. In this day and age, it was not necessary for a rich man to keep a woman as a mistress. As long as one was rich, a woman could still keep a man as a mistress. "Mei, sit down first. I'll serve you after I've dealt with these two shameless cheese in my house." Duan Shi shouted intimately at the rich woman. Then, he turned around and looked at Duan Li and Duanya with a furious expression. He was indeed kept by this rich woman's husband, who was worth tens of millions. The rich woman also relied on her husband's money to keep him as a mistress. It was also because this rich woman named Shi Mei came from a wealthy family that Duan Shi chose to be with her, even though she was ugly and was 20 to 30 years older than him. Chapter 670. Duan Shi turned to look at Yun Jian after speaking to Shi Mei intimately. "This is my family's business. Scram. Otherwise, I'll call the police. You can wait to go to jail." Duan Shi glared at Yun Jian, his tone harsh and uncourteous. Just as Duan Shi finished, Shi Mei fished out a newly bought phone from her bag like she was showing off and dialed 110 in front of everyone. Country Z's first 110 police station was set up in 1986. It was now 1999 and Longmen City was one of the more economically developed cities in Country Z. Therefore, a 110 police station had been set up a long time ago. After Shi Mei took out her phone, she waved it in front of Yun Jian like she was showing off. Then, She used her plump hand with bright red nail polish that looked fashionable in this era to dial 110. However, she did not make the call directly. Duansher turned to see that Shirmei had already dialed the police number. He snickered at Shirmei and turned to threaten Yunjian again in a vicious tone. If you don't scram, we'll call the police right away. We have phones. Haha. Duansher was full of bragging as he spoke. He felt that he was rich now that he was riding on Shirmei's coattails. Jiejie Yunju, leave now. Duanli was obviously afraid of Duansher, but she walked over anyway and tugged at the corner of Yunjian's shirt as she told Yunjian. Scram, scram. And you two damn brats, I'll definitely kill you later. How dare you disregard my words? Duansher scolded Yunjian first before he spoke in a menacing tone like he was going to swallow Duanli and Duanya alive. It was not hard to imagine how Duanli and Duanya would be tortured by Duansher if Yunjian really left with Xiao Yunju. Yunjian pulled Duanli into her arms without a trace. She glared at Duansher with a sharp gaze before she let go of Duanli. I won't allow you to bully Chestnut. Xiao Yunju stood in front of Duanli and Yunjian. He stretched out his arms and glared at Duansher with his small black eyes. His stare was so intense that it almost bored a hole in Duansher's body. It was a pity that Duansher had been frightened since he was young. Xiao Yunju's threats had no effect on Duansher. Xiao Zhu, let's go. Yunjian let go of Duanli's hand, then grabbed Xiao Yunju's hand and walked towards the door. Sister, why? If we leave, Chestnut will be bullied. Xiao Yunju was stunned. He always thought that his sister was very powerful. Why did his sister want to leave when Chestnut was in danger? Duansher and Shirmei, who was standing behind them with her phone in her hand, smiled contemptuously at Yunjian. They thought that Yunjian was frightened by them. Just as Yunjian held Xiao Yunju's hand and walked between Duansher and Shirmei and was about to walk out of the door, Yunjian suddenly turned around and kicked Duansher. The strength of this kick was so strong that it suddenly knocked Duansher to the ground. Duansher's face was smashed to the ground, and his front teeth were bleeding instantly. At the same time, Yunjian strode forward. She snatched the phone from Shirmei's hand before she could react. Then, she pounced forward and kicked Shirmei to the ground with a roundhouse kick. Shirmei's plump body slammed hard against the door behind her. She was in so much pain that she almost suffocated. Duansher and Shirmei only recovered from their shock after they were sent flying by the kick. Yunjian wanted to leave just now, because she wanted to stop Shirmei from calling 110 to call the police. She was so good at acting. More importantly, how could this 16-year-old girl have such powerful skills? Chapter 671. Duansher and Shirmei had yet to recover from their shock when they were sent flying by the kick. Xiao Yunju and Duanli both looked at Yunjian with admiration. Duansher and Shirmei were obviously terrified. Yunjian's skills were uncanny and frightening. How could there be a 16 or 17-year-old girl who pretended to leave just a second ago and turned around to send someone flying with a kick as fast as she could when she reached the door? Duansher and Shirmei were used to the evils of society. They had already thought of themselves as people who were familiar with the cruelty of reality and were the pioneers of society. Duansher, in particular, could have anything he wanted ever since he fell in love with a rich woman like Shirmei. Money for beer was not a problem at all. Recently, Duansher had been behaving as respectfully as he could, and often did not return home at night. Coming home today, Duansher had planned to abandon his children and take some necessities to enjoy himself with Shirmei. However, he did not expect to see two strangers, Yunjian and Xiao Yunju, as soon as he got home. Duansher was poor and was unwilling to go to work to earn money. He had also never raised his two children at home. It was Longmen City's government that was paying for their livelihood. Duansher even had to use the funds given by the government to buy beer, let alone support Duanli and Duanya. In fact, it was only recently that Duansher had stopped taking the money given to his children by the government because he had fallen in love with a rich woman like Shirmei. Of course, if he wanted Duansher to give Duanli and Duanya living expenses, there was no way. Beep, beep, beep. Just as Duansher was sent flying, and his front teeth were bleeding, and he was thinking about killing Yun Jian and his two burdens. The sound of a phone being dialed rang. Yun Jian's hand pressed the confirm button on Shimei's phone softly. Shimei's phone had already dialed 110, but she and Duanshe had been threatening Yun Jian. Moreover, Shimei and Duanshe only knew how to dial the number. They did not have the courage to call the police. Especially Shimei, who was now using her husband's money to support Duanshe. If she really went to the police station to make a statement, it would definitely alarm her husband. If Shimei's husband found out about Shimei and Duanshe's scandal, it would be difficult to deal with this matter. Moreover, not to mention taking money from Shimei's husband to give to Duanshe. Even Shimei herself would face marriage problems with her husband. At that time, even Shimei would turn from a rich woman to a penniless one. Therefore, Shimei did not dare to call the police. At most, she only wanted to threaten Yun Jian, but he never thought that Yun Jian wouldn't fall for it. Yun Jian naturally saw through Shimei's thoughts. She snatched the phone just to call the police. After the phone rang 3 times, Shimei and Duanshe instantly realized the danger they were in. They ignored the pain from being thrown to the ground and the door and rushed toward Yun Jian as soon as they got up. Shimei shouted and screamed at the same time. Her fiery voice no longer had its initial tranquility. "Give it back to me! Give it back to me! You'd *Imin woman, give it back to me! Do you believe that we won't find someone to kill you? Give us back our phones now!" Duanshe threatened Yun Jian as he looked at her ferociously. Duanshe also knew some gangsters, so he threatened Yun Jian even more vigorously. However, Duanshe was smarter than Shimei. He was kicked by Yun Jian just now, so he did not dare to go forward. Shimei, on the other hand, rushed forward without a care. However, just as Shimei reached Yun Jian pulled Xiao Yunju and Duanli to avoid her. Chapter 672. I'm reporting domestic violence against a child at home. The address is Unit 302, Block 3, Residential Apartment, East Street, Sanyang Road. Yun Jian told her address, and everything in one breath. When Shimei rushed over, Yun Jian had already told her everything, including their address. Yun Jian knew the address so well because she had a habit. No matter where she went, she would look at the street signs around her, including the house numbers. Of course, she would only take a quick glance. Others might not be able to see anything, but she had already memorized all the street signs and house numbers. In fact, in daily life, street signs, house numbers, and even the building of the apartment were all indicated. It all depended on whether one would look and pay attention in real life. Of course, Yun Jian had a good memory, so she remembered all of it. When Yun Jian reported the address accurately, Duanshe and Shimei were dumbfounded. At that moment, Yun Jian had already hung up on Shimei's phone. She was wearing sportswear today, because she was attending Xiao Yunju's parent-child sports day. Her phone was a heavy item, so she did not bring it. Instead, she brought a butterfly knife, because the butterfly knife was something she was used to using. Seeing that Yun Jian had already hung up on the phone, Shimei flew into a rage. She turned to glare at Duanshe and shouted, "What should we do? What should we do? She already made the call. How did she know your address? Were you the one who told her about it? You did it on purpose, didn't you? Anyway, this has nothing to do with me. You can do whatever you want." Because Shimei was afraid, she pushed all the blame to Duanshe. After saying that, Shimei grabbed her bag and wanted to run away. Because Shimei was nervous, she did not even want to take her phone back. "No, I didn't say it. Mei, I came back with you. How could I lie to you?" Duanshe quickly turned around and pulled Shimei. Then, Duanshe pushed all the blame to Duanli. Duanshe glared at Duanli and spoke in a fierce tone. That fierce tone did not have the slightest trace of father-daughter affection. He looked at Duanli and roared. "Was it you who gave her my address just now? You little bitch, I'll kill you later." Not only did Duanshe have no fatherly affection for Duanli and Duanya, he even hated them. Usually he would hit and kick them. When he was drunk, Duanshe would even smash a beer bottle on Duanli's head. Duanli had a cut on her head from the beer bottle shards, but because of her hair, no one could see it. "Father!" Duanli shrunk back in fear. She could already imagine how Duanshi would scold and beat her. Xiao Yunzhu, Duanshi, Duanli, Duanshi, and Duanshi Mei and Duanshi. Looking at Duanshi, Yunjian's right hand had been in her pocket since the beginning. *TCH. Just you wait. If I don't kill you, I'm not human. Just you wait. Duanshi did not dare to attack Duanli, as she was protected by Yunjian. Therefore, Duanshi could only threaten Duanli verbally. At that moment, Duanshi wanted to tear Duanli into pieces. After saying that, Duanshi held Shimei's hand, and the two of them planned to escape. At that moment, police sirens were heard from the door. Duanshi and Shimei's hearts tightened. Why did the police come so quickly? At that moment, 3 or 4 police officers came up the stairs. As soon as the police officers entered the stairs, Yunjian saw a familiar face. Chapter 673. Officer Wu received a new mission not long after he finished his work at Wuning Elementary School. Someone reported domestic violence. Usually, domestic violence could be mediated with the neighborhood committee first. If the mediation failed, the police would intervene. However, according to the police records, it was not the first time Duanshi's family had been reported for domestic violence. The police had even intervened before. Duanshi had been sent to the police station more than once. However, he was released in the end. Duanli and Duanya were often beaten up badly by Duanshi. Even the other owners of the apartment could not stand it anymore. Therefore, someone had already reported Duanshi. Duanshi had also been arrested and sent to the police station. But he was eventually released without charge. Of course, the other owners of the apartment would not watch Duanshi for domestic violence for the sake of Duanli and Duanya. Therefore, Duanshi would only hit his daughters when there was no one around. Other than that, Duanshi would only hit Duanli and Duanya in front of others when he was drunk. Otherwise, Duanshi would vent his anger on his daughters when he was angry. It was also because of this that Officer Wu was sent here, before he even returned to the police station, after finishing his work. Moreover, it was not Officer Wu's first time here, so he was familiar with the place. However, Officer Wu did not expect to see Yunjian right after he finished his work at Wuning Elementary School. Yunjian was an advanced special forces soldier. She was Team Monarch's slashing god. Therefore, Officer Wu was shocked when he saw Yunjian. Yunjian merely smiled at Officer Wu. Duanshi and Shimei were already nervous. When Officer Wu greeted Yunjian the moment he entered, they were even more shocked. Yunjian, she knows a police officer. If that was the case, are you the one who reported the case? Just as Duanshi and Shimei were feeling guilty, Officer Wu asked Yunjian. Officer Wu did not even look at Duanshi and Shimei. Yunjian nodded slightly. We've investigated this matter many times. You're Mr. Duan, right? Officer Wu looked at Duanshi and was not unfamiliar with him. The news of Duanshi beating up Duanli and Duanya had already spread throughout the apartment complex. Some of the owners could not stand it anymore and had already called the police. The neighborhood committee had tried to persuade Duanshi, and the police had tried to detain Duanshi. But it was useless, because the police station did not have absolute evidence to prove the severity of Duanshi's domestic violence. It was not enough to put Duanshi behind bars. Duanshi only glanced at Officer Wu and did not reply. But in reality, Officer Wu knew who Duanshi was even without asking. Regarding your abuse of the child, Officer Wu was interrupted by Duanshi before he could finish his sentence. Mother *Ker, the child is mine. I can hit him however I want. What can you do about it? Duanshi cursed at Officer Wu. Anyone who heard Duanshi's inhumane words would feel a wave of displeasure well up in their hearts. Officer Wu also cursed Duanshi in his heart. It was mainly because he didn't have any conclusive evidence to arrest Duanshi. Otherwise, Officer Wu would have already arrested someone like Duanshi and sent him to jail. In 1999, video recorders and audio recorders were not everywhere. At least, the owners of the apartments did not have them. Otherwise, if someone had recorded the scene of Duanshi abusing the child or his abuse of the child, Duan Shi would have been sent to jail long ago. Chapter 674. Did you tell her my address just now? You little b*****. I'm going to kill you both later. Dad. You'd ****. Just you wait. I won't be human if I don't kill you. Just you wait. The voice came from Yun Jian's sweatpants pocket. It was Duan Shi insulting Duan Li before Officer Wu arrived. When the recording ended, Yun Jian took out the mini recorder from her pocket. The recorder was small, and Yun Jian had asked Zhang Jifan to prepare it for her. Now that New Cruise was growing in scale and had begun expanding across the country, Yun Jian planned to expand the company to other regions with its headquarters in Longmen City after some time. New Cruise's name and country Z would be fully established. Of course, it was not something that could be done in a day, and there was no hurry. As for the recorder, Yun Jian had asked Zhang Jifan to purchase it from overseas. She knew that she would need the recorder in many ways. So Yun Jian had asked Zhang Jifan to purchase a mini recorder for her. Zhang Jifan had just gotten the recorder for Yun Jian as well. Yun Jian had brought it with her today, but she did not expect the first use of the recorder to be on Duan Shi. With the recorded conversation, Duan Shi could do nothing even if he wanted to quibble. Officer Wu had been displeased with Duan Shi for a long time. Of course, it was purely because of Duan Shi's inhumanity. He did not treat his daughter as a human being, but as a punching bag. Anyone who did such a thing would be despised. Officer Wu could not get any evidence of Duan Shi's actions before this, but with the recording in Yun Jian's hands, he could arrest Duan Shi immediately. Duan Li did have many injuries on her as well. Once Yun Jian's recorder was out, Duan Shi would not be able to escape from prison. Therefore, when Duan Shi heard the recording, his face instantly turned pale from rosy to pale. Give it to me. Damn girl, give it to me. Duan Shi did not care about anything else, as he charged towards Yun Jian, with a ferocious look on his face. Duan Shi pounced on Yun Jian fiercely, but Yun Jian merely narrowed her eyes. Yun Jian did not move or make a sound. Be careful. Looking at Duan Shi lunging at Yun Jian, Officer Wu's murderous move made him freeze in shock. Yun Jian raised her leg and kicked Duan Shi to the ground. Officer Wu also breathed a sigh of relief. Taking advantage of the time when Duan Shi pounced on Yun Jian, Shi Mei had already disappeared without a trace. Because there were no policemen to stop Shi Mei, she ran very fast. Duan Shi was kicked to the ground, and Duan Li merely blinked her small eyes twice. To Duan Li, fatherly love did not exist at all. Moreover, Duan Li had always been beaten to a pulp by Duan Shi, so she did not have any affection for Duan Shi. Duanya, on the other hand, curled up at the foot of the bed and looked over without moving. Her frightened look made one's heart ache. If one looked closely, the back of Duan Li's and Duanya's hands and feet were covered with scars that looked like they had been cut. Damn it! Damn it! I'm going to kill you. Duan Shi did not want to go to jail. He wanted to snatch the recorder from Yun Jian's hands. Chapter 675. Duan Shi had gone mad. He had gone mad. Duan Shi had been to the police station before, and everyone knew that there was no freedom in the police station. People like Duan Shi yearned for freedom. If Duan Shi were to stay in the police station for a week, he would not be able to endure it. Moreover, there was another main reason. How could there be alcohol in the police station? Duan Shi was an alcoholic, and he would not be able to survive without alcohol. It was the same principle as how some people could not live without cigarettes, and those who were addicted to drugs could not get rid of their addiction. Therefore, when Yun Jian took out the recording device, Duan Shi went crazy. He could not beat Yun Jian, so he picked up the kitchen knife and threatened Yun Jian. Seeing Duan Shi pick up the kitchen knife, Officer Wu and the others were shocked. If a person was powerful, he could fight against 2 or 3 people at once. However, if the opponent had a deadly weapon, he would be afraid no matter how powerful he was. After all, this person had not been formally trained. Officer Wu and the others had not undergone formal special forces training. Therefore, when they saw Duan Shi pick up the knife, they shuddered. However, Officer Wu and the other policemen took out the stun batons on their waists. The stun batons were for the police. However, Officer Wu and the others had not undergone formal training. Therefore, even with the stun batons in their hands, the sharp knife in Duan Shi's hand still sent chills down their spines. Duan Shi held the kitchen knife and approached Yunjian carefully. At the same time, he threatened Yunjian, "Give me the recording device. Give it to me. Otherwise, don't blame me for being rude." "Dad." Duan Li's heart clenched. Although she was not related to Duan Shi, Duan Li did not want Duan Shi to be in a desperate situation. Xiao Yunju had already pulled Duan Li behind them. "Don't be afraid, I'll protect you." Xiao Yunju looked at Duan Li and said sternly, "Mr. Duan, this is considered an assault on a police officer. Put down your weapon." Officer Wu stood in front and advised Duan Shi, "Unless she gives me the recording device, I'll kill all of you." Haha. Duan Shi thought that everyone present was suppressed by him, and he became more arrogant. However, in reality, Duan Shi's hand was trembling as he gripped the saber. "You want this?" Yunjian held the recording device in her hand. She shook it in front of Duan Shi, and then held it in her hand. "Yes. Give it to me. Give it to me." Duan Shi shouted even louder when he saw the recording device. He didn't want to go to jail. He couldn't go to jail. Therefore, he had to get the recording device. "Want it? Come over and I'll give it to you." Yunjian held the recording device. She crossed her arms and looked at Duan Shi fearlessly. "I'm not going over. Throw it to me." Duan Shi really thought that Yunjian was afraid of the kitchen knife in his hand. After all, he could kill people with a kitchen knife without blinking an eye. The reason why Duan Shi didn't want to go to Yunjian's side was because he still remembered Yunjian's strange skills. He really couldn't stop her. Duan Shi firmly believed that as long as he didn't go over, Yunjian would be afraid of him. Then, when the recording device was thrown to him, he would crush it immediately. "If you're not coming over, I'll go over." Yunjian smiled sarcastically. Then, under the watchful eyes of Officer Wu and the other policemen, she walked toward Duan Shi fearlessly. "Be careful." Although Officer Wu and the rest knew that Yunjian was an advanced special forces soldier, they still doubted her ability when they saw Yunjian's age. It was human nature. Seeing Yunjian walk toward Duan Shi step by step, Officer Wu and the rest felt their hearts squeeze together. Chapter 676. Seeing Yunjian walking towards Duan Shi step by step, Officer Wu and the rest were a little scared. No matter what, Yunjian was still a young girl. Even though she was an advanced special forces soldier, Yunjian was not holding anything in her hands at that moment. On the other hand, Duan Shi was holding a kitchen knife. The person who was not holding a weapon, and the person who was holding a weapon. The person who had the weapon definitely had the upper hand. "If you come any closer, I'll kill you." Duan Shi was so scared that his whole body was trembling. He retreated step by step, until he could not retreat any further. Then he stopped and pointed the knife at Yunjian. "Didn't you want this?" Yunjian weighed the recording device in her hand. She suddenly stopped smiling, and turned to look at Duan Shi with her cold eyes. Duan Shi's eyes turned, and he stared at the recording device in Yunjian's hand. In the next second, Duan Shi's eyes flashed viciously. He held the knife and rushed towards Yunjian as fast as he could. Duan Shi held the knife in one hand and slashed it towards Yunjian from top to bottom. His other hand was quite agile, as he knew how to snatch the recording device in Yunjian's hand. "Give it to me," Duan Shi said ferociously. As he spoke, his ferocious expression made most of the people present gasp. Crazy. This Duan Shi was really crazy. Just as Officer Wu and the rest were about to close their eyes and not dare to watch what was going to happen next, Yunjian suddenly reached out her hand. At that moment, Duan Shi was holding the kitchen knife and slashing it towards Yunjian. "Sister! Little sister!" Xiao Yunju and Duan Li screamed almost at the same time. Both of them were scared out of their wits and screamed at the top of their lungs. The kitchen knife in Duan Shi's hand was aimed at Yunjian's head. but Yun Jian actually reached out her hand to catch it. That was a kitchen knife. The tip of the knife was extremely sharp. Even if one's finger accidentally slipped on the tip of such a kitchen knife when cutting vegetables, one would be injured. If he accidentally used too much force when cutting vegetables, it could cause the wound to bleed profusely. If this kitchen knife were to cut into a person's body, the consequences would be unimaginable. Even though Yun Jian had killed an assassin of the Inferno Ring in Wenningi Elementary School, Officer Wu had not seen it. After all, Yun Jian had killed an assassin from the Inferno Ring. At most, Officer Wu and the others questioned everyone who was present at the scene and made a statement. As for how Yun Jian killed the Inferno Ring assassin, they had only heard about it from the parents and teachers of Wenningi Elementary School. Be careful! Officer Wu couldn't help but shout again. Although the people present were afraid to see the bloody scene, Officer Wu and the others were men after all. They had guts and wouldn't close their eyes. Duan Shi's knife was already above Yun Jian's head, and Yun Jian had already reached out her hand. Most of the people present thought that Yun Jian would definitely be injured by Duan Shi. Even Duan Shi revealed a sinister smile, thinking that he would be able to snatch the recording device away from her. In the next second, Yun Jian reached out. Her fair and smooth hand accurately grabbed the tip of the kitchen knife in Duan Shi's hand with her thumb and index finger at lightning speed. The knife in Duan Shi's hand was only 2 centimeters away from Yun Jian's flesh. If he continued to cut, he would be able to cut off Yun Jian's thumb. However, no matter how hard Duan Shi tried, Yun Jian's thumb and index finger pinched the tip of the knife tightly, causing Duan Shi's hand to be unable to move. You! Duan Shi suddenly saw this scene and screamed in shock. Officer Wu and the others, who were standing far away, saw this scene and were all shocked as if they had seen a ghost. Duan Shi was holding the handle of the knife. The tip of the knife was the sharpest part to begin with. Yun Jian was actually able to accurately grab the tip of the knife with the fastest speed and control her strength to prevent Duan Shi, who already had an absolute advantage holding the handle, from continuing to cut down with the knife. This Yun Jian, how strong must her fingers be able to catch Duan Shi's knife without batting an eyelid? Chapter 677. Although Officer Wu and the others had not participated in the Special Forces training, they had been doing morning runs and exercises every day to strengthen their bodies. But suddenly, they saw Yun Jian reach out to catch the kitchen knife that Duan Shi was swinging at her. What's more, Yun Jian used her fingers to pinch the tip of the knife, stopping Duan Shi's attack, just 2 centimeters away from her skin. It was important to note that a kitchen knife was quite smooth. To pinch the tip of the knife with just the strength of one's hand and prevent the knife from cutting downwards, Yun Jian's finger strength and hand strength were not something that a normal person could compare with. Officer Wu and the others were stunned. Duan Shi had just recovered from his shock and was about to pull the knife back to cut Yun Jian again. Yun Jian moved her leg sideways. She lifted her leg, and without looking, she stepped on Duan Shi's knee. Ah! Duan Shi screamed. His knee was kicked by Yun Jian, and it went soft instantly. The next second, Duan Shi knelt down with a thud from the pain. He had unintentionally knelt in the direction of Yun Jian. Duan Shi's legs went soft, and his hand loosened. Yun Jian reached out and easily snatched the kitchen knife from Duan Shi's hand. She turned her hand and held the knife to Duan Shi's neck as he knelt in front of her. Duan Shi was so scared that he was sweating all over. In the next second, he heard Yun Jian's calm and emotionless voice. You don't deserve to be Chestnut's father. Killing you will dirty my hands. With Yun Jian's cold kitchen knife on his neck, Duan Shi could not care about anything else. He was about to be killed by Yun Jian. I beg you, don't kill me. I was wrong. Don't kill me. Duan Shi's somewhat handsome face was extremely pale. He was so scared that his whole body was shaking. Even if someone held him down, he could not stop shaking. In the face of life and death, most people would be afraid. Don't. Officer Wu thought that Yun Jian was really going to kill Duan Shi. He quickly ran forward to stop her. Duan Shi was scum. But if Yun Jian really killed him, then Yun Jian would not be able to escape the punishment of the law. Immediately, a police officer ran up and handcuffed Duan Shi's hands, bringing him back to the police station. After Yun Jian put away the kitchen knife, Officer Wu walked over and asked Yun Jian, "Can you bring the child back to the police station with us to make a statement?" Yun Jian nodded as she held Duan Li's trembling hand. Regardless of whether Duan Shi's abuse of the child constituted domestic violence, or whether he had to go to jail, at least he had assaulted a police officer and tried to snatch Yun Jian's recording device. And it was in front of the police. He would definitely be detained. After such an incident, Duan Li and Duanya would definitely have to go to the police station to make a statement. Today's incident was actually caused by her, so Yun Jian was determined not to leave Duan Li and Duanya behind. After making a statement at the police station, Duan Shi was temporarily detained. As for Duan Shi's sentence, it would take some time. However, according to Officer Wu's explanation, Duan Shi would definitely go to jail. Even if he did go to jail, it would not be for long. The exact time would have to wait for the verdict. After making a statement, Officer Wu personally sent Yun Jian and the other 3 out of the police station. Some of the female police officers and police officers who were working at the police station saw them and took a few more glances at Yun Jian. When they saw Yun Jian, everyone present was a little shocked. The person who could be personally escorted out by Officer Wu was actually a young girl. At this moment, Officer Wu and Yun Jian were already standing at the entrance. Regarding these 2 children, I can send them to the Children's Welfare Institute. Officer Wu looked at Duan Li and Duanya and said to Yun Jian, "No need, I'll take care of them," Yun Jian said with a smile. To Yun Jian, having 2 more mouths to feed did not affect her at all. The reason why Yun Jian adopted Duan Li and Duanya was because Xiao Yunju begged her. Chapter 678. Seeing that Duan Li had agreed to follow Yun Jian, Officer Wu did not stop her. Usually, adopting a child required a lot of procedures, but Duan Li was not an orphan. At least her father was still alive. Yun Jian was an advanced special forces soldier and one of Gu Yunjian's men, so she was naturally trustworthy. Therefore, Officer Wu registered and let Yun Jian take the children away first. The following procedures would not be too complicated, because Yun Jian's identity was there. No matter how complicated the procedures were, Officer Wu would help Yun Jian with it. Of course, if he could not do it, there was still Gu Junjian. "Okay, then I'll leave these 2 children to you. If you need anything, you can contact me anytime." Officer Wu nodded at Yun Jian, and then said sincerely. He was also very sincere. Not to mention anything else, just Yun Jian's ability alone was enough to convince him. "Okay." Yun Jian nodded at Officer Wu. After saying goodbye, she turned and walked across the road with Duan Li, Duanya and Xiao Yunju. Duan Li held Duanya's hand. Duanya did not say a word, but she was very obedient. It was already dinner time at Duan Li's house. After so many things happened, they waited until now to give their statements at the police station. It was already 7 in the evening. Yun Jian and Xiao Yunju had some food, but Duan Li did not eat anything. Duanya only ate a little bit of porridge that could not even be considered porridge. Duan Li, Duanya, and Xiao Yunju were about the same age. Now that they were all growing up, children at this age needed to eat and replenish their nutrition. However, the food that Duan Li and Duanya usually ate was probably not enough, let alone nutritious food. Yun Jian held Duan Li and Xiao Yunju while Duan Li held her sister, Duanya. The 4 of them walked across the road. Yun Jian suddenly turned and asked Duan Li, "Chestnut, are you hungry? I'll take you to eat." Okay. Sister, I'm hungry again. Let's go eat." Although Xiao Yunju had eaten, he was still a growing child. Naturally, he would get hungry easily. Duan Li lowered her head slightly, but she still raised her head to look at Yun Jian. Her small eyes seemed to be glowing as she said, "Miss, thank you." Yun Jian smiled and rubbed Duan Li's head. Then, she brought Duan Li, Duanya, and Xiao Yunju to a nearby restaurant. On the other hand, Adam and Lan Su went on their way after bidding farewell to Yun Jian. Of course, The reason they traveled together was because Lan Su's suite was in the same direction as Dong Ruan's villa. Lan Su and Adam continued to move forward. The two of them were competing to see who could run faster. The passers-by could only feel 2 gusts of wind blowing past them. It had to be said that both Lan Su and Adam were competitive people. It was not until Lan Su reached the door of her suite that she turned to leave. She left Adam with a snort as she left. Humph. Haha. Adam touched the bridge of his nose. This was the first time he had competed with a woman in a race. Moreover, their speed was on par. After laughing for a while, Adam's handsome face disappeared. He turned around and walked back to Dong Ruan's villa. Adam was staying at Dong Ruan's house as Siyi's friend. Moreover, there were many rooms in the villa. Adam had just returned to Dong Ruan's house when he met Imo's son halfway. Who's that woman? Mawson crossed his arms and looked at Adam from the side as he asked. You saw her? Adam's tall figure walked over. Chapter 679. Imo's-san nodded. Then he asked again. Who's that woman? She works for young madam. Adam chuckled. Then, he looked at Imo's-san and walked over to put his arm around Imo's-san's shoulder. He asked in an experienced manner. Aren't you very free? Why are you asking this? Young master is back. Imo's-san did not answer Adam directly. Instead, he changed the topic. Oh. Adam nodded. He had guessed it too. Imo's-san followed Siyi back to an Hun organization. Now that Imo's-san was back, Siyi would naturally be back too. Let's go home. Adam could already guess that their young master must have gone to look for Yun Jian again. Hence, Adam put his arm around Imo's-san's shoulder and walked back home like brothers. Yun Jian brought Duan Li and her children to a restaurant nearby. This restaurant was called Jiangxi Stir Fry. It was a famous delicacy nearby. Jiangxi's menu was suitable for the public's appetite. Of course, some people from other provinces did not eat spicy food. Jiangxi's dishes had a taste that one would never get tired of eating. Of course, everyone had their own preferences. However, Yun Jian liked it very much. Yun Jian could eat a little spicy food, but Xiao Yunju, Duan Li, and Yun Jian did not eat spicy food. Hence, when they were ordering, Yun Jian asked the boss to prepare non-spicy dishes. They ordered 3 meat and 3 vegetable dishes. When the dishes were served, Duan Li and Duan Ye were dumbfounded. Duan Li and Duan Ye had never eaten such delicious food since they were born. Although the school's food was already considered a delicacy to them, the school's cafeteria food was not as good as the freshly fried dishes outside. Duan Li and Duan Ye were practically wolfing down the food. Eat slowly. Yun Jian smiled with her eyes squinted. There are a total of 16 chicken drumsticks. There are 4 of us. For each of us. Xiao Yunju calculated quickly and put the drumsticks into everyone's bowls. Xiao Yunju was very smart. He was afraid that Duan Li and Duan Ye would not eat, so he put the meat into everyone's bowls separately. In fact, Yun Jian had also noticed that Duan Li and Duan Ye had not touched the meat since the dishes were served. It was likely that the 2 children had never eaten meat before. Even if there was meat at home, Duan sure would never let Duan Li and Duan Ye touch it. These 2 children had probably developed the habit and didn't dare to eat meat anymore. I'm not eating. You guys share it. Yun Jian narrowed her eyes, her long eyelashes fluttering. Duan Li blinked her small eyes. She looked at Yun Jian and said to Yun Jian, if you don't want to eat, we won't eat either. Duan Li put down her chopsticks as she spoke. As soon as Duan Li put down her chopsticks, Duan Ye, who was sitting beside her, also put down her chopsticks. Duan Ye had no idea what was going on. She only knew that her sister had put down her chopsticks, and she had to follow suit. If elder sister doesn't want to eat, Xiao Zhu won't eat either. Xiao Yunju also learned to put down his chopsticks. Yun Jian smiled when she saw their reactions. She picked up a chicken drumstick with her chopsticks, gave it a gentle bite and swallowed it. Xiao Yunju and Duan Li looked at her, and happily picked up their bowls and chopsticks to eat the chicken drumsticks in their bowls. Duan Ye remained silent, but she also picked up her chopsticks with her clumsy hands like Duan Li. Yun Jian looked at the bright smiles on the 3 children's faces. She subconsciously curled up the corners of her lips. She had probably never felt so warm in her previous life or this life. At that moment, Yun Jian was using her chopsticks to pick up a chicken drumstick. She had just lowered her head and was about to swallow the chicken drumstick when a gentle and mellow male voice sounded beside her. "Is the drumstick good?" Chapter 680. Yun Jian turned to look and saw Ce standing in front of her. His jet black hair accentuated his fair and handsome face, and his casual outfit made him stand out. Ce was the kind of person who got more and more attractive the more you looked at him. Yun Jian couldn't help but be stunned when she turned to look at him. "Do I look good?" Ce walked over and rubbed Yun Jian's head affectionately. Then, he reached out and lifted Xiao Yunju up from Yun Jian's seat. Ce lifted Xiao Yunju and gently placed him beside Duanli. Duanya sat beside Duanli. The tables here were facing each other, but the stools were arranged in a row. If 3 people squeezed together, they could still sit together. Xiao Yunju, Duanli, and Duanya were small to begin with. Thus, when Ce brought Xiao Yunju to Yun Jian, the 3 of them could sit in a row without cramped space. Ce smoothly sat beside Yun Jian. Then, he leaned his head back and placed his hands on his forehead. Just like that, he turned to look at Yun Jian. Yun Jian paused. Then, she gently placed the chicken drumstick back into the bowl. "How did you know we were here?" Yun Jian asked. She wasn't surprised that Ce was back. She was surprised that he knew she would be here for dinner. Moreover, even if Adam had met Ce, he wouldn't have known that she was here. This was because after Adam and Lan Su parted ways with her, something unpleasant had happened to her at Duan Li's house. "How could I not know where you are?" Ce kept her in suspense. His handsome lips curved upwards. His sharp features were extremely handsome. Yun Jian didn't want to get to the bottom of it. What's more, Yun Jian's focus wasn't on this at all. "Oh!" Yun Jian pursed her lips slightly, then picked up her chopsticks again, and picked up the drumstick. "If you don't want it, then give it to me." Ce stretched out his slender and fair fingers. His fingers were well-defined, slender and beautiful. At this moment, this good-looking hand directly grasped Yun Jian's jade-like hand. He pressed against Yun Jian's hand, and moved the drumstick in Yun Jian's hand to his face. Yun Jian turned to look at Ce and pursed her lips. At this moment, the chicken drumstick in Yun Jian's hand had already been controlled by Ce, and was being fed to him. His hand was close to hers, and her hand was holding the chopsticks. This scene was so embarrassing that it was hard to imagine. Yunju watched the scene in bewilderment, still unable to wrap his head around it. Duan Li and Duanya were watching as well. Duan Li's mouth agape. The 3 children had yet to recover from their shock. Ce had already taken a bite of the drumstick that Yun Jian had just eaten. Once he did so, he let go of Yun Jian's hand. Ce finished the entire drumstick in no time. He did not even spare the bones. This was the drumstick that his Xiao Jian had eaten, so it was naturally delicious. Yun Jian pointed at the other 3 drumsticks in her bowl and told Ce, "If you're hungry, these are all for you." "I'm full." Ce tilted his head to look at her, the indulgence in his gaze clear. "Chestnut, this is my Ce Gidge. Isn't he good-looking?" Xiao Yunju quickly introduced Ce to Duan Li when he snapped out of it. "Amen." The latter studied Ce and nodded heavily. By then, Yun Jian had already picked up the other drumstick and took a bite. A large hand reached over again. Yun Jian turned to look and asked Ce suspiciously, "Aren't you full?" Chapter 681. It wasn't until Ce ate Yun Jian's drumstick that Xiao Yunju shouted at Ce, "Big brother Ce, you can't steal big sister's drumstick. That's big sister's drumstick. You're so naughty." Xiao Yunju immediately defended Yun Jian. As soon as Xiao Yunju finished speaking, he looked at Ce and calmed down. "Big brother Ce, are you still hungry?" Xiao Yunju asked. Ce looked up and smiled at Xiao Yunju. "Big brother Ce, if you're still hungry, you can have Xiaoju's portion. Big sister is hungry too," Xiao Yunju said as he pushed his drumstick in front of Ce. Ce smiled and pushed his drumstick back to Xiao Yunju. He said, "I'm not hungry." Then why did you steal big sister's drumstick? The teacher said it's wrong to steal other people's food, Xiao Yunju said self-righteously. Ce smiled awkwardly. Hurry up and eat. I'll take you home when you're done, Yunjian urged. Then she said, when we get home later, I'll have to make your beds. It's already 7 o'clock. It's not good for children to sleep too late. Yunjian's words made sense. Xiao Yunju, Duanli, and Duanyu were very obedient. Later, Xiao Yunju and Duanli even competed to see who could finish their food first. The two children were having a lot of fun. Duanli had never played so happily in her life. Therefore, she kept a smile on her face, as if she wanted to vent all the happiness in her life. Big sister, big brother, Ce, I'm done. Xiao Yunju was the first to look up. Me too. A bright and satisfied smile bloomed on Duanli's delicate face. Ce went to the counter to settle the bill, and brought the three children out of Jiangxi restaurant with Yunjian. When they got home, Qin Yiru and her brother Yun Yi, who had just rushed back from Qin Yu's house, Yunjian told them about Duanli and Duanya. Now that Qin Yiru and Yun Yi knew that Longmen City's new cruise was owned by Yunjian, they did not object to Yun's adoption of Duanli and Duanya. On Duanli and Duanli and Duanya. S and Duanlis and Duanyes and Duanya. In the end, Duanli, Duanya, and Yunju addressed Qin Yiru as Mama Qin. Qin Yiru was a kind person. Of course, kindness and adoption depended on the occasion. If it was when their family was poor, perhaps Qin Yiru would not adopt another child after adopting Xiao Yunju. After all, if their family was so poor that they did not have enough food, they would not be able to survive if they had a few more mouths to feed. Qin Yiru was not a good person either. Now that their family's condition was improving because of Yunjian, Qin Yiru was more than happy to adopt Duanli and Duanya. Yunyi welcomed the children as well, but Yunyi only went downstairs to show her face before going back upstairs. Brother, Yunjian called out to Yunyi. Yunyi had just returned from Qin Yu's hometown today. Xiao Jian, what's up? Yunyi asked in return. Brother, why are you going upstairs so early? Aren't you going to play a little longer downstairs? Yunjian asked. Yunyi blushed suddenly before he answered Yunjian quickly. I'm catching up on my homework. School starts tomorrow. Xiao Jian, I'll go upstairs first. Yunyi went upstairs as he spoke. Staying at Qin Yu's house, Yunyi did not feel like going home anymore. It was only on the last day that Yunyi returned to Longmen City. Chapter 682. Yunyi had always been an obedient student. Be it at home or in school, Yunyi had always completed her homework on time. When Yunjian first heard that Yunyi had not completed her homework, she was stunned. Yunjian was excellent in her studies, but she was often the one who did not complete her homework. Yunjian basically never did the homework assigned by school. Yunjian would start school tomorrow, but to Yunjian, homework did not exist. It was different for Yunyi. If Yunjian believed that Yunyi did not do her homework, it would be more unacceptable than the sky falling down. After all, Yunyi's hard work was witnessed by everyone. Back then, Yunyi had gotten into DE Senior High School from Xinjiangjin Junior High based on her own abilities. It was not without her hard work. A trip to Qin Yu's house and Yunyi did not even do her homework. This was unheard of. Yunjian's lips twitched, but she did not say anything. Xiao Jian, have you guys eaten? Look at how skinny these kids are. Why don't I make you guys something to eat? Qin Yiru said as she headed to the kitchen. Mama Qin, we've eaten. We're full. Jia brought us there. Xiao Yunju told Qin Yiru, as she patted her tiny tummy, that was devoid of any excess fat. Qin Yiru smiled at that. A life like this was something that Qin Yiru could only come by luck, so Qin Yiru was content. After they were done tidying up the girls' rooms, the group went to bed. Duanli and Duanya were still young, and Duanya would be scared to sleep alone. So Duanli and Duanya slept in the same room. After Duanli, Duanya, and Xiao Yunju fell asleep, Yunjian went back to her room to sleep as well. Ce pulled Yunjian to his room right in front of Qin Yiru. Knowing that Ce would not do anything, Yunjian did not argue. Once they were in Ce's room, Ce hugged her out of habit. Are you okay this afternoon? Siyi's muffled voice came from the top of her head. Yunjian had planned to sleep, but when she heard Siyi's question, she snuggled into Siyi's arms and answered, "I'm fine. I just don't know who those people are." Siyi was asking about what happened at Xiao Yunju's school in the afternoon. Someone was trying to assassinate Yunjian. Siyi's heart skipped a beat when he heard the news. Although Siyi knew that Yunjian would be fine, it was still a big deal to him. "It's the Inferno ring. It should be Tai Jingang's gang. I'll handle it," Siyi told Yunjian, as he sniffed the lingering fragrance in her hair. Yunjian fell asleep quickly in Siyi's warm embrace. The next day, Yunjian woke up in Siyi's arms. After her morning run with Siyi, Yunjian went to Longmini Junior High School with a hot egg and 2 steamed buns that Qin Yiru had given her. Just as she reached the school gate, Yunjian bumped into Zhang Xiaofeng and Chen Sini, whom she had not seen for a long time. "Jian, I'm here." Chen Sini waved desperately at Yunjian the moment she saw Yunjian. Yunjian smiled faintly when she saw Chen Sini, and turned to go over. "Jian, you're early." Chen Sini hooked her arm around Yunjian's hand affectionately when she came over, leaving Zhang Xiaofeng alone. Hey, that's my master." Zhang Xiaofeng chased after her when he snapped out of it. Chapter 683. Yunjian followed Chen Sini and Zhang Xiaofeng from the school gate to the school building. The winter break had been going on for more than 20 days. When they first arrived at school, they bumped into familiar faces that they could not remember. They would often bump into students from other classes in school, but they did not know each other's names. This was a common occurrence in a student's life. Students from different classes would often bump into each other when they went to the washroom. However, after 3 years of middle school, they might not even know each other's names. Yunjian and the rest had just arrived at the school building when a handsome boy walked towards them. "Hi, you guys are here so early." Ling Yichen waved as he walked towards Yunjian and the rest. When they first met, Yunjian did not have a good impression of Ling Yichen. However, after spending some time together, Yunjian did not hate Lin Yichen that much. Zhang Xiaofeng and Chen Sini's opinion of Lin Yichen had also improved significantly. Go. Didn't you come earlier than us?" Chen Sini waved at Ling Yichen, as if she wanted to chase Lin Yichen away. "Hehe." Ling Yichen rubbed his head, a little embarrassed. Chen Sini continued to hold Yunjian's hand and ran ahead. Ling Yichen used to be a playboy in school. He had the potential to hook up with girls, and was more diligent in changing girls than changing clothes. However, ever since he started hanging out with Yunjian and the rest, Ling Yichen had never had a girlfriend again. "Hey, you 3, wait for me." Ling Yichen reached out and hooked his chin domineeringly. Then, he suddenly realized that Zhang Xiaofeng had already chased after Yunjian and Chen Sini. He quickly shouted and chased after them. "I'm not waiting, so I'm not waiting." Chen Sini turned around and made a funny face at Ling Yichen. She giggled and pulled Yunjian even faster. With a smirk, Yunjian followed Chen Sini and her friends back to the classroom, fooling around. Ling Yichen was not in the same class as Yunjian and the rest, so they parted ways not long after they reached the teaching block. After returning to the classroom, the homeroom teacher began to collect tuition fees. In 1999, the internet wasn't as convenient as it was now. Students in this era would bring money with them to class. Once the tuition fees were collected and the textbooks were distributed, it meant that the winter break was over and the new semester had officially begun. Zhang Xiaofeng and Chen Sini were sitting in their seats with their heads down. They were a little depressed. A new semester had just begun. Some students in the class were also talking about how the winter vacation had ended before it even started. They hadn't had enough fun. Fortunately, they only received their textbooks today, and the school ended at 11 o'clock in the afternoon. The school would only officially start the next day, so the teachers did not plan to keep the students until the evening. After class in the afternoon, Zhang Xiaofeng was the most excited. "Master, I have an uncle who opened a taekwondo dojo in Longmen City. Let's practice there today," Zhang Xiaofeng said excitedly. His father had an old friend named Zuolinwei. Zhang Xiaofeng called him uncle, and Zhang Xiaofeng was close to this uncle since he was young. Since Yun Jian was willing to teach Zhang Xiaofeng real skills, Zhang Xiaofeng, Chen Sini, and Chen Sini had been waiting for Yun Jian to teach Zhang Xiaofeng something after school. Now that Zhang Xiaofeng had an uncle who opened a taekwondo dojo, Zhang Xiaofeng suggested that they go there to practice. Okay. Yun Jian nodded. Chapter 684. Yun Jian narrowed her eyes at Zhang Xiaofeng's words. Zhang Xiaofeng, well done. You want Jian Jian to compete with that uncle of yours, don't you? How dare you beat around the bush? Chen Sini scolded Zhang Xiaofeng fervently now that she had something to use against him. Heh. Zhang Xiaofeng rubbed his nose and chuckled awkwardly when Chen Sini saw through his thoughts. As they spoke, the group had exited the school and was walking out of the school gate. Just as Yun Jian stepped out of the street and headed for the opposite street, a female voice rang behind her. However, it was not directed at Yun Jian. Hi Yichen, where are you guys going? Do you mind bringing me along? The rather bold female voice came from behind. Yun Jian turned around and saw the owner of the voice. The owner of the voice was a girl around 18 years old. The girl had short hair and looked like a boy. Moreover, she was dressed in men's clothing, which made her look more like a tomboy. However, it could be seen from the contours of her face that she was a girl. She did not look like a boy in terms of appearance. Sis Lin, why are you back? Ling Yichen's mood brightened instantly when he saw the girl dressed like a boy. He turned to ask her. I'm visiting my alma mater. I remember that you're in your 3rd year of junior high now, right? The girl who was addressed as Sis Lin was called Meng Lin, and she was replying to Ling Yichen with simple words. Yeah. Ling Yichen nodded and introduced Meng Lin to Yun Jian and the rest. This is Sis Lin. She's our senior, I guess. She's 2 years older than us and has graduated now. She's in her 2nd year of senior high in another province. Ling Yichen could not help chuckling as he spoke and continued. Sis Lin's results are great. She helped me a lot when I was in my 1st year of junior high. While Ling Yichen was introducing her to the others, Meng Lin was not shy. She boldly extended her hand towards Yun Jian and the rest. Hi everyone. If you don't mind, you can call me senior sister. I also graduated from Longmen No. 1 Middle School. With that, Meng Lin chuckled. Yun Jian slightly expressed her goodwill to Meng Lin. Oh right, I heard your voices just now. You said you were going to the Taekwondo dojo, right? You don't mind bringing me along, right? Meng Lin clenched her fists. After displaying her might like a boy, she laughed out loud. Of course. He then turned to Yun Jian and said, Sister Lin has been learning judo since she was young. She's a judo expert now. Yun Jian, you two can spar. Ling Yichen and the rest were well aware of Yun Jian's strength. However, it was common for 2 people with some strength to spar with each other. Sure. Yun Jian smiled faintly. Her beauty was intriguing. She did not dislike Meng Lin. Meng Lin's personality was very down-to-earth, just like a boy's. This also meant that she did not scheme against each other like girls. This was a good feeling for Yun Jian. Although they had met a new Meng Lin, it did not affect them much. The group walked towards the Taekwondo dojo that Zhang Xiaofeng's family had just opened. After passing through a few streets, they passed through the downtown area. After passing through the downtown area, they saw Zhang Xiaofeng's Taekwondo dojo by the side of the road. Yun Jian and the rest walked into the Taekwondo dojo. Chapter 685. In this group of people who were dueling, the oldest was only around 25 years old, while the youngest was only 14 or 15 years old. Of course, there was also a group of kids from 7 to 13 or 14 years old sitting next to the dojo. It could be seen that the people who were fighting one-on-one were only limited to the oldest group of people in the Taekwondo channel. The fights were carried out in batches. The people fighting were divided into 2 groups based on their age. The older ones were fighting against the older ones while the younger ones were fighting against the younger ones. At this moment, the people who were fighting were the group of people between the ages of 14 and 25. When Yun Jian entered the dojo, She saw a middle-aged man in his 40s with white hair, standing next to the two people fighting. It was undeniable that this middle-aged man with white hair was Zhang Xiaofeng's uncle Zhuo Linwei. Uncle, Zhang Xiaofeng walked over with Yun Jian and the others when he saw Zhuo Linwei. Xiaofeng, you're here? Zhuo Linwei asked when he saw Zhang Xiaofeng and the others. Zhuo Linwei's dojo had only been open for a short time. It could be considered a new dojo. In fact, Zhuo Linwei was an international retired mercenary. It was no longer a secret that he was one of the best in the world. Because of his experience as a mercenary and Zhuo Linwei's own skills, he had a good grasp of Taekwondo. Therefore, when the dojo opened for business, people immediately signed up to learn it. In just a few days, the dojo was almost full. These are my friends. Zhang Xiaofeng pointed at Yun Jian and the others. His finger stopped at Yun Jian, and he introduced her to Zhuo Linwei. Uncle, this is my master Yun Jian. I've told you about her before. She's amazing. Zhang Xiaofeng's introduction made Zhuo Linwei take a closer look at Yun Jian. Yun Jian was also looking at Zhuo Linwei when she was being sized up. Zhuo Linwei had a kind of wild aura. At the same time, his rough appearance was hard to forget. Zhuo Linwei also had a special difference. He had a long black beard on his mouth, which was deliberately left there. That long beard added to Zhuo Linwei's mysteriousness, as well as his powerful strength. Yun Jian narrowed her eyes. The first time she saw Zhuo Linwei, her intuition told her that he was not simple. Hello. Yun Jian nodded at Zhuo Linwei. Good. Little friend, nice to meet you. Zhuo Linwei hurriedly replied. Uncle, my master is very powerful. Why don't you two spar? Zhang Xiaofeng praised Yun Jian again. He couldn't wait to see Yun Jian compete with his uncle Zhuo Linwei. A duel between two experts. This scene was absolutely spectacular. After all, Yun Jian was strong, but his uncle was not weak either. His uncle Zhuo Linwei was also a retired member of the International Mercenary Group. After Zhang Xiaofeng finished speaking, he turned to Yun Jian and said, Master, my uncle is a member of the Gale Mercenary Group. He just retired from the Gale Mercenary Group not long ago. His strength is definitely not comparable to ordinary people. If you two spar, you'll definitely benefit a lot. Zhang Xiaofeng was just anxious to see his uncle spar with Yun Jian. He knew that Yun Jian was very strong. And he also knew that Yun Jian did not want to fight with a weakling. Therefore, he revealed Zhuo Linwei's identity and tried to get Yun Jian to spar with Zhuo Linwei. Chapter 686. Just as Yun Jian heard about the Gale mercenaries, Meng Lin exclaimed in surprise. Gale mercenaries? I know them. They're a mercenary group formed by various international alliances, and they're under the management of the International Gale Corporation. I heard that the Gale mercenaries under the Gale Corporation recruits elites from all over the world all year round, but only a handful of people can join the Gale mercenaries. Your uncle is actually from the mercenary group. That's amazing. Meng Lin had heard of the Gale mercenaries before, and was dumbfounded by what she heard. To Meng Lin, she was just an ordinary student. Even though she had learned judo, and was considered a judo expert, she was still intimidated by an international mercenary group, like the Gale mercenaries. The biggest difference between the Gale mercenaries and the kosher mercenaries was not the word mercenary. It was that the Gale mercenaries were under the management of the International Gale Corporation. The kosher mercenaries was an underground organization, similar to an assassin organization like the Inhun group. The most obvious difference was that the members of the kosher mercenaries were basically made up of assassins. Of course, the kosher mercenaries would recruit international elites as well, but in comparison, the higher-ups of the kosher mercenaries were all assassins who had survived through brutal training, be it internationally or in their respective territories. Unless they were killed, these people were important figures who could hold their own. Zhuo Linwei, who was praised by Meng Lin, was standing beside her. He was more or less embarrassed to hear the compliment. After all, he had retired from the military and wanted to simply open a taekwondo gym in Longmen City and live out the rest of his life peacefully. Although Zhuo Linwei was a mercenary of the Gale mercenary group, He was nothing in the Gale mercenary group. There were many elites in the Gale mercenaries. Zuolinwei's ability to join the Gale mercenaries was proof of his ability. It was undeniable that he was very capable. However, in a place like the Gale mercenaries where talents were outstanding, someone as capable as Zuolinwei would be buried. This was the truth. Therefore, Zuolinwei was embarrassed to hear Meng Lin praise him. Meng Lin's praise made many students in the Taekwondo dojo pricked up their ears, especially the students who learned Taekwondo here. Many people present wanted to know the strength of their coaches. Meng Lin didn't have any other intentions. She was just surprised and said what she knew. However, among Zuolinwei's students, there was a ruffian in his 20s. He pretended to be knowledgeable, so he asked Zuolinwei, "Coach Zuo, I know a little about the international mercenary groups. The Gale mercenary group is also divided into several teams. What's the name of your team?" The Gale mercenaries were indeed divided into several teams, just like the advanced special forces. Gu Junjian was the chief instructor, while Yunjian's team Monarch was just one of the teams in the advanced special forces. The Gale mercenary group was also divided into teams in the same way. Every assassin organization or mercenary group had their own way of governing. At least, the Gale mercenaries were divided into teams of a few people. Zuolinwei did not hide it when he was pressed to this extent. He said, "Fury." Chapter 687. Rampage was just a small team of the Gale mercenaries. Just like Gu Yunjian's team Monarch, it was just a small team. However, even if Team Monarch was just a small team, it was now the spokesperson of the advanced special forces. Yunjian's 2 missions, including the annihilation of the Inferno Ring, had completely spread Team Monarch's reputation. As soon as Zuolinwei spoke, the ruffian boy exclaimed in surprise. This boy clearly knew about the international mercenary groups and mercenary groups. "Oh my God! Rampage! Coach Zuo, you're from Rampage!" The ruffian guy exclaimed immediately, his tone as if he was afraid that Zuolinwei did not know about Rampage. "Hey Ningbin, explain it to us. What's Rampage?" Some of the guys around him were interested and asked quickly. After all, not everyone knew about the Gale mercenaries. Perhaps everyone knew what a mercenary group was. But if it was a mercenary group with a precise name like the Gale mercenaries, most of them would not know about it. "Hey, you guys don't know about it?" Since there were girls around, especially Yun Jian and Chen Sini, the ruffian guy called Ningbin kept them in suspense and sneered. "Nonsense, tell us if you want to." Some of the guys around could not stand Ningbin, so they shouted. Ningbin was keeping them in suspense, thinking that it was very obvious and impressive that he was pretending to be knowledgeable in front of the girls. However, the other guys were naturally displeased when they saw Ningbin showing off in front of the girls. Being urged, Ningbin said proudly, "Hey, there are only 120 people in Rampage, but I heard that among these 120 people, the top 20 are all on the international rankings. Hackers, assassins, secret agents. Although they're not particularly high on the rankings, they're all kings of the elites." Ningbin's boast caused many people present to gasp. Ningbin, on the other hand, thought that he was impressive. He turned to look at Zuolinwei and exclaimed, "Coach Zuo, you're really from Rampage? That's unbelievable." "I'm just one of the weakest in Rampage," Zuolinwei said. At this point, Zuolinwei smiled awkwardly. It was obvious that he was not bluffing. "You're amazing too." Ningbin flattered Zuolinwei. From the beginning until now, Ningbin's attitude towards Zuolinwei had changed drastically. Everyone present shifted their gazes to Zuolinwei and started talking among themselves. Zuolinwei, on the other hand, just as they were talking, Yun Jian's melodious voice was heard. "The Gale mercenaries group." As she spoke, she turned to Zuolinwei and asked, "Since you're from Rampage, you should know Cotton, don't you? How's he doing now?" Cotton was a top figure in the Gale mercenary group. He was one of the top 3 hackers in the international hacker rankings. At the same time, his strength was also widely acknowledged. Yun Jian had interacted with Cotton in her past life. Due to their dealings in firearms, they had been friends for some time. Therefore, when she heard about the Gale mercenaries group, she naturally asked. When Zhou Linwei heard Yun Jian's words, he shouted in surprise, "You know Commander Cotton?" Chapter 688. Zhou Linwei's gaze shifted from the others to Yun Jian. His eyes widened as he stared at Yun Jian in disbelief. In the Gale mercenaries, Cotton's position was equivalent to the leader of the Gale mercenaries. The Gale mercenaries and the Kosha mercenaries had different names. The boss of the Kosha mercenaries was equivalent to the leader of the Gale mercenaries. However, the Gale mercenaries were formed by mercenaries from all over the world. The leader of the Gale mercenaries was not as important as the boss of the Kosha mercenaries. For the Kosha mercenaries, as long as it was the boss of the Kosha mercenaries, they would do whatever the boss said. However, the Gale mercenaries were different. In the Gale mercenaries, everyone in the alliance had the right to speak. In other words, the leader of the Gale mercenaries could not do whatever he wanted. As for Cotton, he was personally invited back by the leader of the Gale mercenaries. Cotton's power in the Gale mercenaries was equivalent to the leader of the Gale mercenaries. Sometimes, Cotton's words were even more effective than the leader's. That was the difference. A character like Zhou Linwei would never have the chance to talk to Cotton. Therefore, when he heard Yun Jian call Cotton a kid, Zhou Linwei was so surprised. After all, Yun Jian was only a 16-year-old girl. Zhou Linwei had never mentioned Cotton before. Since Yun Jian mentioned him, it meant that she knew this person and even knew Cotton. Seeing Zhou Linwei so surprised, everyone present was stunned. Who was Cotton? Who was the leader of the Gale mercenaries? If Zhou Linwei, who had retired from the Gale mercenaries, was so surprised, then this person was definitely not simple. For a moment, everyone present turned to look at Yun Jian. Who is Cotton? Ningbin suddenly felt that Yun Jian had stolen his limelight. Although he was unhappy, Ningbin would not insult in front of Yun Jian. There was no other reason except that Ningbin pretended to know a lot in front of Yun Jian. If it weren't for the two girls, Yun Jian and Chen Xinyi, he probably wouldn't even bother to say anything one-sided. Yun Jian and Chen Xinyi were both good-looking. In comparison, Yun Jian was prettier, so Ningbin had long taken a fancy to her and wanted to show off himself. Ningbin's question was actually directed at Yun Jian. However, Yun Jian didn't even look at Ningbin. She looked at Zhou Linwei and answered his question. Yes, I do. Not only did they know each other, but when Yun Jian first entered the hacker world, Cotton could be considered her elder. In the end, in less than 2 months, she cracked the broken program in Cotton's hands and made a mess of it. Cotton had to pay a huge price for it. He lost $1 billion. Of course, $1 billion was nothing to Cotton. Cotton wasn't angry. Later on, Yun Jian worked with Cotton on a batch of firearms business. Of course, the time they spent together was only a few days. Yun Jian knew a lot of people, and Cotton was just one of them. Yun Jian's simple sentence stunned Zhou Linwei. Even as a member of the Gale mercenary group, he didn't have the ability to meet Cotton. But Yun Jian actually knew Cotton? Ning Bin, who was standing at the side, was very unhappy with the feeling of being ignored. He patiently asked Yun Jian, "Little beauty, who is Cotton? Can you tell me?" As soon as Ningbin finished speaking, Zhou Linwei answered for Yun Jian. "Cotton is the leader of our Gale mercenary group. His position is even higher than our leader. A small character, like me, doesn't even have the right to meet him." Everyone gasped when they heard Zhou Linwei's words. Chapter 689. Zhou Linwei looked at Yun Jian in surprise. He took 2 deep breaths and asked, "Young friend, may I ask who you are?" The word yes was delayed for a long time. It was enough to show Zhou Linwei's surprise. Hearing Zhou Linwei's words, everyone present stared at Yun Jian, as if they wanted to stare a big hole in Yun Jian's body. Yun Jian just gently pursed her lips. Her delicate and perfect little face quickly revealed a bright smile. She answered Zhou Linwei, "My name is Yun Jian. Didn't Zhang Xiaofeng mention it before?" Yun Jian's words made Zhou Linwei frown. Of course, Zuolinwei didn't intend to hear Yun Jian's true identity from her. After all, there were so many people present. Even if Yun Jian wanted to say it, she couldn't say it in front of so many people. Of course, after Yun Jian said it, many people present felt that it was meaningless. TSK, who does she think she is? I think she's just bragging. A boy couldn't help but shout. Bragging, bragging, bragging my ass. If you don't have the ability, why don't you brag for me too? When Zhang Xiaofeng heard it, he quickly jumped out to speak for Yun Jian. At the same time, he fiercely scolded the boy. That boy was scared by Zhang Xiaofeng's aggressive words. Of course, perhaps because he knew the relationship between Zhang Xiaofeng and Zuolinwei. The boy who scolded Yun Jian just now didn't dare to say anything. Hehe, I didn't expect you to be so pleasing to the eye. When Chen Xini saw Zhang Xiaofeng speaking for Yun Jian, she couldn't help but praise Zhang Xiaofeng. Better than you. Zhang Xiaofeng and Chen Xini bickered. Then he ran over to Yun Jian. Cough, cough. Zuolinwei coughed softly, forced to look at Yun Jian squarely. At this moment, Zuolinwei really wanted to spar with Yun Jian. Yichen, your friends are really interesting. Meng Lin also stepped forward and said. Then, she reached out her hand to stroke her short hair. Like a boy, she extended her hand to Yun Jian and said, Beauty, you don't mind being friends with me, right? Let's get to know each other again. My name is Meng Lin. I'm your senior from 2 years ago. Meng Lin reached out to Yun Jian boldly. Everyone liked to make friends with the strong, and Meng Lin was no exception. Yun Jian narrowed her eyes at the same time and reached out her hand. Yun Jian. Yun Jian stretched out her hand and repeated her name to Meng Lin. It could be considered that she intended to befriend Meng Lin. To be honest, Yun Jian quite liked bold and manly women like Meng Lin. From the beginning, Yun Jian had a good impression of Meng Lin. Hey, are you guys done talking? Xiaofeng said that you're very strong. If it's convenient, why don't you spar with me? Zuolinwei liked to spar. To him, challenging the strong was also one of life's greatest pleasures. Therefore, he extended his hand to Yun Jian to express his thoughts. That's right. Master, why don't you spar with my uncle? Besides, everyone wants to see what you're capable of, right? Zhang Xiaofeng did not forget his initial goal. He quickly spoke to Yun Jian with a hint of pleading in his tone. As soon as Zhang Xiaofeng spoke, most of the people present agreed. Indeed, most of the people present wanted to see Yun Jian's strength. After all, to most of them, they were waiting for a good show. Chapter 690. The questions from before, including Gale mercenaries and Yun Jian's acquaintance with Cotton, were quickly tossed to the back of everyone's mind. At this moment, there was only one thing that everyone present was interested in. Yun Jian was going to fight Coach Zuolinwei one-on-one. The students in the Taekwondo dojo were especially excited at this moment. One of them was the coach of the Taekwondo dojo, a former mercenary of the International Fierce Wind Mercenary Group, who had just retired from the army. The other one was an underage girl, who knew a big shot that even Zuolinwei, a mercenary, was afraid of. What's more, Zhang Xiaofeng had always praised Yun Jian, so everyone present was eager to see how powerful Yun Jian was. Compared with Coach Zuolinwei, who was more powerful, Yun Jian or Zuolinwei? Yun Jian, come on! Hearing that Yun Jian was going to fight Zuolinwei one-on-one, Meng Lin, who had just become friends with Yun Jian, stretched out her right hand and made a gesture of encouragement to Yun Jian. Okay, Yun Jian replied calmly, but there was a glimmer of light in her eyes. Come on! Zuolinwei also stretched out his hand and signaled Yun Jian, and at the same time, he announced loudly. Yun Jian's eyes flashed and she curled her lips. Then she walked towards the place where the students were fighting one-on-one. There was a simple arena on the ground. Master, come on! Master, come on! Master will win! When Yun Jian walked to the opposite side of Zuolinwei, and they looked at each other, Zhang Xiaofeng's desperate shout was heard. The people present were automatically divided into two groups. Of course, the group of students who were training in Zuolinwei's Taekwondo dojo naturally cheered for Zuolinwei. However, the one who shouted the loudest was undoubtedly Zhang Xiaofeng. Zhang Xiaofeng was shouting with all his strength. Brat, Uncle has also treated you well. You're not cheering for me and you're cheering for her. Even if it's just for show, you're too cruel to Uncle's heart. Zhuo Linwei and Yun Jian stood facing each other. At this moment, he couldn't help but tease Zhang Xiaofeng. His tone was even joking. Hey! Zhang Xiaofeng stuck his tongue out awkwardly, but he did not stop cheering for Yun Jian. Then let's begin. Zhuo Linwei changed his joking tone and turned to look at Yun Jian. When he spoke, there was a trace of seriousness and seriousness. Let me make it clear in advance, little friend. I won't go easy on you, so you can't go easy on me either. Show me what you've got. Let's compete fairly, regardless of whether you lose or I lose. This is just a friendly duel. Zhuo Linwei said. It had to be said that Zhuo Linwei was quite far-sighted. After all, some people would lose their dignity if they lost a duel. After the duel, they would cry and shout that they were going to die. They would even treat the opponent who defeated them as an enemy. It wasn't like Yun Jian had never encountered this kind of situation. It had happened a few times before. Therefore, Yun Jian preferred Zhuo Linwei's way of talking about this kind of thing. I have no objections. Let's begin. Yun Jian also became serious. Zhuo Linwei was a member of the Gale mercenary group. This also meant that his strength was not ordinary. Yun Jian would not underestimate any opponent. At the same time, she would not let go of any opportunity to win. In short, she would not go easy on Zhuo Linwei for any reason. Chapter 691. When Yun Jian said that they could begin, a lot of people felt their hearts clench. Zhuo Linwei turned his sharp eyes to Yun Jian. He looked directly at the girl who dared to challenge him one-on-one. Zhuo Linwei had a big body and a thick waist. His body was sturdy and powerful. He had long trained his muscles. Because of his many years of experience as a mercenary, he had a decisive advantage over Yun Jian in terms of physical strength. Although Yun Jian was strong, her physical strength was far from her previous lives. In her previous life, Yun Jian did not look like a burly woman, but at least she had enough physical strength to compete with Zhuo Linwei. In this life, Yun Jian persisted in training every day. However, her physical strength was not enough. After all, she had only trained for half a year. In her previous life, she had trained for 11 years in a life-and-death situation. In short, one's strength was not something that could be honed in a short period of time. Ha! Zhuo Linwei shouted loudly. Then he stretched out his thick arms and ran towards Yun Jian at his fastest speed. The strength in his hands did not decrease at all. Whether it was in her previous life or after her rebirth, Yun Jian's strength was not her strength. Physical strength was only one point. Yun Jian had always relied on tactics and methods to win. When she saw Zhuo Linwei rushing towards her, she did not panic. Oh my god! I feel like this girl will be beaten into a meat patty by Coach Zhuo. A boy could not help but exclaim when he saw this scene. When the people present saw this scene, they all gasped. Zhang Xiaofeng and the others were not surprised. If you ask why Zhang Xiaofeng and the others were not worried that Yun Jian would not be able to defeat Zhuo Linwei, it was because Yun Jian had killed Wolf Blade, one of the top 10 assassins in the world, right in front of Zhang Xiaofeng and the others. Unlike Ge Junjian had received news that Wolf Blade was killed by Yun Jian. When Wolf Blade was killed, Zhang Xiaofeng and the others had seen it with their own eyes. Such terrifying skills. How could he possibly lose? Zhang Xiaofeng and the others knew that Yun Jian wouldn't lose, but they couldn't be sure that Yun Jian could beat Zhuo Linwei. After all, Zhuo Linwei, who had been in the Gale mercenary group, was not weak. No one could maintain absolute skills, and it was impossible for them to not improve at all. If they didn't train, their skills would deteriorate. Therefore, under such circumstances, a one-on-one duel was the most direct and easiest way to see who was stronger. Aren't you guys nervous? When Meng Lin saw that Zhang Xiaofeng, Chen Xini, and Ling Yichen were not worried about Yun Jian losing at all, she was a little suspicious and took the opportunity to ask. Hey sis Lin, just watch. Ling Yichen kept her in suspense. Meng Lin turned around suspiciously and looked towards the arena. However, Zhuo Linwei had already reached out his thick arm to grab Yunjian. He tried to grab Yunjian's arm, and at the same time, give Yunjian a somersault in order to win in one move. However, before Zhuo Linwei could touch Yunjian's arm, Yunjian's body was like a coiling snake. She leaned to the side and dodged Zhuo Linwei's grab in an instant. Zhuo Linwei was a little surprised for a second. Then he turned around and tried to suppress Yunjian to prevent her from attacking further. However, Zhuo Linwei didn't know that Yunjian was strong because of her speed, accuracy, ruthlessness, and ferocity. Yunjian bent sideways and circled from Zhuo Linwei's front to his back. At the same time, she took out her butterfly knife. Before Zhuo Linwei could turn around to suppress her, her unsheathed knife was already pressed against Zhuo Linwei's back, where his heart was. Chapter 692. The butterfly knife was still in Yunjian's palm, and had yet to be unsheathed. In other words, even if Yunjian were to stab Zhuo Linwei's heart in the back with the butterfly knife, Zhuo Linwei would only be hit by the scabbard. He would be fine. How could the knife hurt someone if it was not unsheathed? Everyone was stupefied. It was only then that Zhuo Linwei realized that if Yunjian had unsheathed the saber that was pressed against his back, he would be dead by now. Zhuo Linwei had brute strength, and his speed was not considered slow. However, the reason he lost so quickly was simple. Yunjian was too fast, so fast that Zhuo Linwei could not react at all. Moreover, if a person only had brute strength, wouldn't it be useless if he could not hit his opponent? Just when everyone present was so shocked that they were speechless, Ningbin's cry of surprise rang out. F*CK. The little beauty one. This shout completely pulled the souls of everyone present back to reality. Although Zhang Xiaofeng, Chen Xinyi, and Ling Yichen had seen Yunjian's skills before, they could not help but shiver from the bottom of their hearts when they witnessed Yunjian's skills again. Meng Lin also widened her eyes at the scene in front of her. At the same time, she gulped a few times and could not help but criticize in her heart. In any case, she had grown up practicing judo and was older than Yunjian. But what about her skills? If she, Meng Lin, was the one who fought Yunjian, she dared to bet that she would have been subdued by Yunjian before she could even lift her hand. Ha ha ha. At that moment, Zhuo Linwei's heroic voice was heard. Everyone turned to look at Zhuo Linwei. They saw that Yunjian had already put away the butterfly knife and habitually hid it in her pocket. The younger generation will surpass us in time. The younger generation will surpass us in time, Zhuo Linwei said. At the same time, he turned around and looked straight at Yunjian. Thank you for letting me win. Yunjian lowered her eyes. The corners of her lips curled up slightly as she spoke humbly. Ha ha ha. Like I said, my master. How could he lose? At this moment, the happiest person was probably Zhang Xiaofeng. At this moment, Zhang Xiaofeng stood in front of everyone and smiled without caring about his image. Zhang Xiaofeng was quite good-looking, but his smile completely ruined his image. That's enough. Chen Xinyi was also happy for Yunjian. Of course, at the same time, she did not forget to tease Zhang Xiaofeng. Hee. Zhang Xiaofeng laughed and ran towards Yunjian. As he ran, Zhang Xiaofeng even shouted exaggeratedly, Master, how could your move be so powerful? Teach me quickly. Yunjian had gradually begun to teach Zhang Xiaofeng moves. After half a semester, Zhang Xiaofeng had almost mastered the chopstick throwing. Half a semester was not enough for Zhang Xiaofeng to master the chopstick throwing to perfection, and Yunjian did not ask Zhang Xiaofeng to stop. Moreover, the purpose of coming to this taekwondo dojo today was to teach Zhang Xiaofeng moves. Yunjian did not intend to hide it. She stretched out her jade-like hand and then started to move. Today I'll teach you this. You have to be fast and accurate. If the opponent attacks you, you have to remember that you have to dodge the opponent's attack at the same time. At the same time, you can't determine whether the opponent has a follow-up move. Therefore, during the time when you dodge the opponent's attack, use the knife to block the opponent's fatal point. This is very important. Yunjian repeated the movements just now. Her moves were clean and neat. Zhang Xiaofeng listened and nodded. Even Zhuo Linwei was surprised. A cloud of doubt floated in the hearts of everyone present. Who taught Yunjian such good moves? Chapter 693. Zhang Xiaofeng was still trying to understand the moves that Yunjian had just taught him. At this time, Zhang Xiaofeng was very serious. His serious look made Chen Xinyi, who wanted to make a dig at Zhang Xiaofeng, shut her mouth. Yunjian turned her head slightly and looked at Ningbin for the first time. Ningbin had been talking to himself, so Yunjian didn't pay attention to him at all. Perhaps there were indeed many girls who liked to talk to and get close to a guy like Ningbin who liked to act cool and pretentious. Seeing that Yunjian finally turned her head and intended to talk to him for once, Ningbin was wild with joy. He looked at Yunjian, looking forward to Yunjian's answer. This anticipation was partly because Yunjian finally paid attention to him for once, and partly because Ningbin really wanted to know who taught Yunjian her moves. Do you believe me? Yunjian's lips curled up. Her eyes were shining, making everyone's eyelids twitch. Yunjian's answer made some of the boys present even more unconvinced. TSK, who are you trying to fool? As the saying goes, the master can show you the way, but the cultivation depends on the individual. You said that you didn't have a master and taught yourself, so how could you have such skills? Someone was unconvinced and retorted to Yunjian. This was indeed the truth, and the old saying was also reasonable. However, Yunjian's moves were indeed not taught by anyone. She had comprehended them on her own, other than the hypnotism that the old man had taught her. These killer moves were figured out by Yunjian on her own. She was a living person who had crawled out from a pile of corpses. She had killed many people and dealt with many experts, so some moves naturally appeared. You don't believe me? Yunjian raised her eyebrows. Then she changed her tone. Her slightly curled lips instantly calmed down. What if I say that I'm an assassin who crawled out from a pile of corpses? And that's my experience after killing countless people. Would you believe me? Yunjian's eyes darkened, and her murderous intent rose. She had never been a person who would do her job and speak her mind. As soon as Yunjian finished speaking, even Zhuo Linwei, who had just lost to Yunjian, was stunned again. Assassin? If she was really an assassin who had crawled out from an assassin organization, then everything made sense. Everyone present was dumbfounded. Their eyes widened, and they all looked at Yunjian. Kill, kill, kill. You're an assassin? Ningbin was terrified by Yunjian. Just when everyone thought he was to tell the truth, she glanced to the side and sneered. You believe that? Yunjian did not like people like Ningbin, so she did not hold back when she spoke. After saying that, Yunjian immediately turned around. She was already walking toward Zhang Xiaofeng and the others. She even commented on Ningbin, stupid. When Yunjian reached Zhang Xiaofeng and the others, Zhang Xiaofeng and the others were already out of breath from laughing. In fact, from the beginning, Zhang Xiaofeng and the others were disgusted by people like Ningbin who liked to speak in a sarcastic manner and pretended to be arrogant in front of others. Yunjian's action just now was obviously to attack Ningbin from the side. Yunjian's action just now was more satisfying than directly insulting Ningbin. As expected, after Ningbin was criticized by Yunjian, his face instantly darkened. Master, you're the best. Zhang Xiaofeng gestured at Yunjian. Haha. Ling Yichen also laughed unkindly at the side. Yunjian, I didn't expect you to be so good. Meng Lin could not help but praise. Chapter 694. Meng Lin also gave Chen Xinyi a big smile. There was a round clock hanging in front of the Taekwondo dojo. Yunjian could see the time on the clock when she looked up. It was already 12 o'clock in the afternoon. At 12:30, Yunjian had to go to the military training camp. She was supposed to spend an hour teaching Zhang Xiaofeng moves, but she didn't expect to encounter something like this. After everyone laughed, Yunjian said to Zhang Xiaofeng, "You continue to practice the moves I just taught you. I'll check on you the next time you come." Yunjian meant that she was going to the military training camp. Zhang Xiaofeng and the others understood, so they nodded. "Okay, master, go ahead." "Haha, I'll definitely practice seriously." Zhang Xiaofeng was in high spirits. In Zhang Xiaofeng's heart, he had already set Yin Jian as his goal. Working hard towards his goal was what Zhang Xiaofeng wanted to do the most at the moment. Okay. Yin Jian nodded and was about to turn around and leave the Taekwondo dojo. Yin Jian, wait! Before Yin Jian could lift her foot to leave, Meng Lin's voice came from behind. Yes. Yin Jian turned her head slightly and looked at Meng Lin. Yin Jian had a good impression of Meng Lin, so Yin Jian wouldn't ignore her. I'm going to start school tomorrow. I'll be leaving at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Because I'm out of the province, I might not be able to come back for a long time. But I'm definitely going to make friends with you. You can come and play with me during your next break. Yichen knows where my school is. Meng Lin invited Yin Jian. It was apparent that the tomboy Meng Lin, who was tall and short-haired, was really planning to befriend Yin Jian. Okay. Yin Jian narrowed her eyes slightly. She looked at Meng Lin's bold appearance and immediately agreed. Okay. Meng Lin also nodded vigorously at Yin Jian. Under everyone's gaze, Yin Jian walked out of the Taekwondo dojo. If he left for the military training camp at 12 o'clock, he would naturally arrive on time at 12:30. Chu Ning, Chu Xiangnan, and the rest had been training at the training ground since early in the morning. When they saw Yin Jian, the rest of Team Monarch gathered around her. Chu Xiangnan walked up to Yin Jian in an even more exaggerated manner and said bluntly, Hey Yin Jianer, did you know? I heard that our Officer Gu is getting married. And this news came from an old officer, who is very close to Officer Gu. He said that the date hasn't been set yet, but this matter is most likely going to happen. What do you know? Go away, go away. I'll tell Yin Jian. Chu Ning pulled Chu Xiangnan away and squeezed herself in front of Yin Jian, before continuing. Yin Jianer, don't listen to that idiot Chu Xiangnan's nonsense, but it's true. It's said that Officer Gu divorced his ex-wife a long time ago, and is planning to get married after the new year. That's because this morning, Officer Gu submitted a marriage application to the higher-ups. I wonder who's lucky enough to marry Officer Gu now. It's really hard to find a man as good as Officer Gu. Chu Ning could not help but be a little infatuated. After all, Gu Yunjian's looks were not bad. With a proper military face and a proper military uniform, Gu Junjian was really worthy of a valiant military posture. However, even though Gu Junjian was already in his 40s, it was not hard to tell that Gu Junjian was not bad looking when he was young. Since Officer Gu is so good, why don't you marry him? Chu Xiangnan glanced at Chu Ning. He did not realize that he had said something so sour. CKU. Chu Ning clenched her fists and chased after Chu Xiangnan as soon as she heard him. Yin Jian chuckled awkwardly, the corners of her lips twitching subtly. What should she say? That the person who said that Officer Gu was getting married was her mother? It turned out that Gu Junjian had already submitted a marriage application to the higher-ups. Chapter 695. However, Yin Jian did not expect Gu Junjian to act so quickly. He had just confirmed his relationship with her mother not long ago, and he had already applied for marriage from his superior. However, it was obvious that Gu Junjian was sincere about Qin Yiru, and Yin Jian was relieved. Chu Ning and Chu Xiangnan soon got into a fight. Lu Shiyan and the rest glanced at Chu Ning and Chu Xiangnan helplessly. How childish. Jiang Weiwei chuckled, but there was no hint of mockery in her words. To Jiang Weiwei, she had already integrated into Team Monarch. Jiang Weiwei might have been conceited before, but she had the right to be conceited. Of course, that was before Yin Jian appeared. People would always grow up, and Jiang Weiwei was one of those people who matured. Chu Ning jumped up and knocked on Chu Xiangnan's head out of habit. Then, before Chu Xiangnan could react, she ran back to where Yin Jian and Jiang Weiwei were and hugged them to hide. Damn it, damn it! Chu Xiangnan called out in dissatisfaction, but he did not chase after Chu Ning to argue with her like Chu Ning did. Although his code name is Lei Ting, he's actually being beaten up by girls. Even the taciturn Hong Fan could not help but use simple words to describe Chu Xiangnan's situation. Lei Ting was Chu Xiangnan's code name. When these words came out of Hong Fan's mouth, They sounded very different. Damn it, Hong Fan. Even you dared to say that about me. Take this. Chu Xiangnan gave in to Chu Ning, but he would not give in to a boy. Therefore, after hearing Hong Fan's words, he charged at Hong Fan, and the two of them hugged each other. Just as Chu Xiangnan and Hong Fan were having fun, Yun Jian's melodious voice was heard again. Officer Gu is here. Upon hearing that Officer Gu had arrived, Chu Xiangnan and Hong Fan, who were huddled together, immediately let go of each other. The two of them were like primary school students who were fooling around in class, but suddenly saw the teacher and immediately sat up straight. Chu Xiangnan quickly loosened his grip on Hong Fan. He looked around and shouted, "Hey, where is he? Where is Officer Gu?" Yun Jian smiled. "I lied to you." After hearing Yun Jian admit to lying, Chu Ning could not help but laugh out loud. She laughed so hard that tears almost rolled down her cheeks. She didn't expect Yun Jian to be a liar. After laughing, Chu Xiangnan and Hong Fan started fooling around again. Lu Shiyun calmly walked over to Yun Jian and said, "We'll be going to the military academy in Min City in a few days. We'll be going home once every month, or half a month." As soon as Lu Shiyun finished this steady topic, Chu Xiangnan and Hong Fan, who were still fooling around, stopped their movements. Everyone turned to look at Yun Jian. Yun Jian was currently in her third year of junior high school and could not enroll in the military academy yet. As for Team Monarch, they had been together for a long time. Now that they were about to part under such circumstances, it was natural for them to feel a little sad. After all, Chu Ning and the rest would not usually come to the military training camp if they were to go home once a month or half a month. Once they went to the military academy, the training grounds would naturally become the academy's own grounds. Aya, why are you all so sad? It's not like Yun Jian won't come to the military academy to look for us. It's just half a year. Chu Ning tried to lighten the mood, but she was feeling rather sad too. That's right. Yun Jian, you can come and look for us during your holidays. Chu Xiangnan added. Chapter 696. Lu Shiyun sounded confident when he said that, speaking to Yun Jian in a rather serious tone. That's right. We'll work hard to become people who can fight alongside you. Every member of Team Monarch must live up to this title. Fang Xiaoran followed up Lu Shiyun's words and promised Yun Jian with equal vigor. As soon as Fang Xiaoran finished speaking after Lu Shiyun, everyone present chimed in to support Lu Shiyun's words. There were no weaklings in Team Monarch. The king was someone who stood at the top of the world. They would not be weaklings. They would live up to the title Yun Jian gave them and become true kings. All right, just as everyone's vigor was about the same, and everyone declared that they would fight alongside Yun Jian, a voice as thick as Mount Tai sounded. Everyone turned to see Gu Junjian walking in from outside the training ground. It was obvious that the voice just now came from Gu Junjian. Gu Junjian was deeply moved by their majestic declaration. He quickly stood in front of them and said, "With such determination, it means that all of you have the potential to become powerhouses. The future belongs to all of you." Gu Junjian might be different from other officers. He would be stern when it was time to be serious, and would joke with them when it was time to be joking. However, he would not be stingy with the encouragement and rewards that were due. After Gu Junjian said those words, everyone then realized Gu Junjian's arrival. Yun Jian smiled as she stood at the side. "Hehe, Officer Gu, I heard that you're getting married. Is that true?" Chu Xiangnan immediately adjusted the situation that had been in high spirits earlier. Once Chu Xiangnan asked Gu Junjian about this, everyone's eyes were fixed on Gu Junjian. It was normal for subordinates to be curious about their superior's privacy. As for Gu Junjian, other than being stern when it was time to be, Gu Junjian was usually very amiable. Gu Junjian's solemn mood was instantly turned red by Chu Xiangnan's words. "Officer Gu, just tell us about it, okay? You have to treat us to your wedding banquet. We will definitely come to your wedding banquet." Chu Ning looked at Gu Junjian expectantly, as if she wanted to know everything about Gu Junjian. Well, cough cough. Gu Junjian was embarrassed by their stares. He clenched his fist and coughed softly. "Train well. Don't think that I can't control you guys just because you're going to the military academy. Before you go, all 6 of you have to pass the assessment with me first. Gu Yunjian's face turned red from the scolding. He waved his hand and tried to change the topic. Are you serious? Officer Gu, aren't you being too harsh? Chu Xiangnan immediately shouted weakly when he heard Gu Yunjian's words. That's right, Officer Gu. You haven't told us who your bride is yet. Hee. Chu Ning cleverly changed the topic. Say it, say it. Chu Xiangnan stood at the side and cheered for Chu Ning. In front of Chu Ning and Chu Xiangnan, these 2 clowns, Gu Junjian suddenly felt very helpless. It was not that Gu Junjian did not dare to say it, but how was he supposed to bring it up? Was he supposed to say that it was Yunjian's mother? It was a little strange to hear that from his own mouth. Everyone's gaze shifted to Gu Junjian. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support. And don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.